Hello, hello. Good time zone. Today is the day your member dies. Oh no, Toffee. Hi, Lee. Hi, Reiki and Sinfire. Hi, Tala and Nutsuro. Hi, Sora. Hello, Doomjow. Hi, Sinfire on Twitch. You get a special shout out over there. You're back to becoming a Dodger. Oh, it's okay, Toffee. I don't think I'll be doing anything too crazy while you're gone. That makes sense. That's a good plan. So that's okay, Golden Helmet. Thank you so much for dropping by. I know this is a really weird stream time for me. A lot of things didn't go to plan today. A lot of my collab mates had to dip today for one reason or another, and that's okay. Like they totally had like like human things to do today. That's a weird way to put it, but you know what I mean, right? Like people things happened, so they had to dip. That's totally. Cela still sounds handsome today. I am not going to be doing singing March until I think at least next week. And I will be going on a break after tomorrow's stream. Hi, Konhoshi. It is really hot today. So I don't think I'll be playing. I'm not gonna be playing any crazy games today. I don't even know if I'll be playing a game today, if I'm like 100% honest. Because I was informed recently that Resident Evil is a horror game, so I don't think I can play that like alone, because the one who was supposed to play it with me was Tomoe, and she's asleep. It is sleepy time for her. I was actually like, that is actually one of the reasons I had it took so long, because I was looking for someone to hold my hand today, but nobody was available. And I was like trying to pick what game to play today. We don't actually even have to play something like super spooky. I mean, Alice the Madness Returns, I don't think is like a super spooky game. Oh my god, RE7 is widely regarded as extremely terrifying. Why did my friend want me to play that then? Then rest, girl. Thank you so much, Konhoshi, but I ain't no quitter. Well, I don't know. That's what Tomoe told me to download. Hi, Flayed Mind. I know. Okay, so it's the scariest of them. That's crazy. That's insane. Okay, let's start, because it's going to be just chatting for a little bit anyway. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Our student council session is about to begin. On today's agenda, we're actually figuring out the agenda, but it is day 4 of the HORRORTHON, so it's going to be related to that. The thing is, Ari is very tame, but Biohazard, aka 7, is the scariest. Oh no. And that's a very good point, American Bison. I wouldn't be alone because I have you. Would you hold my hand? Depends on what you call scary. If you see any of the past streams of over the past week, you can tell I have a very low tolerance for horror. I get jump scared by my brother flipping off the switch. I think 8 would be perfect. Cela would especially love the story. I have a question. Would I love the story, or is there a hot guy or hot lady with a gun? That's a good question. Let me move this up here. Make things look a little tighter. Oh no. I actually watched the trailer to RE7 when someone told me that it was like straight up horror. I was like, what do you mean it's straight up horror? Yeah, the absolute soul-tearing screech playing mortuary assistant was something else. I agree. We shouldn't have played that on day one. Thank you so much for the tip, Anime Craft. You like hands, cause Ethan. Oh. Oh, hands. Hands, you say. Well, one might say I am a hand enjoyer. I like them a little worn and weathered, a little veiny, big. Stop. This is supposed to be a horror theme. It's, I guess maybe depending on how well you can stomach things, it could be horror listening to me describe hands. Hi, Zenny. Oh, hello, Maid Sakura. There's Lady. Oh, Dimitrescu is from 8. Noted. You got the vampires. Oh. That's okay. Don't worry. We just started. There's nothing crazy going on right now. We're just chatting, really. We'll probably do some hold on. I don't know if this is on. Are you on? It is not on. I actually thought maybe I could read some scary stories. I mean, some people really like Heisenberg. There's no BGM for you? Hold on, is there no BGM? What the heck? Man, I am literally streaming right now. Like CEO San literally just invited me to to a meeting. I also was supposed to be dragged into a meeting earlier since I wasn't streaming. But then stuff happened. I don't know what happened. And then now I started streaming and they're like, "Oh, here's the call. You could join the call if you want." And I'm like, "I am literally streaming right now." No BGM. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Thank you so much for letting me know. Output. How about now? Is there a BGM? Anything I would suggest RE4, not the remake. It's probably one of the least horror RE games. Because I was like, okay, I remember when Tomoe finally like recommended a Resident Evil game to me. And I was like, finally, a gun! You know? That's weird. I didn't know you couldn't hear. Can you hear it? Can you hear it now? Hi, IJ. No, still no. What the heck, man? Let me try to figure that out. I don't know what's going on. I wonder if it's too. How about okay? Let me know if you finally do. How now? Noni! Hi, Noni. Probably like Mr. X. Still no. Weird. I don't know what's going on. Let me try. How about now? How about Twitch? Do you hear it, Twitch? I'm saying this, like I'm looking over here. No! You heard the bell, but no BGM. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna switch to a different song. You guys let me know if you can hear it, okay? That's so weird. How about now? Hi, Naito. Hi, Kani. Day 4, Ganba. That would be scary, actually. I don't like Ganba. Also, no. Crazy dayo. No? I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way then. I did. It's weird. I don't know what happened. Oh, okay. I turned on desktop audio. Hi, Zikart. How about... Okay, you can hear something now. Crazy dayo. Let me try this. Crazy. Okay, let's go back here. Let's go back to the one that I was using for my background. That's so weird. Okay. No worry. Thank you, though. Thank you. No worries. And thank you. Okay. Okie doke. Okay, Turtle Dove. Thank you so much. Yes, we're figuring what we're doing. We did hit the Daki goal. It's so good. Thank you so much, Turtle Dove. Okay. First things first, update on the Donathon. We're currently sitting pretty at $1,773, which is $773 over our main goal. Enough to get me an air conditioner. Woohoo! Let's go! Hello, Tangling Sphinx. And also enough to get me maybe some flooring so that I don't have to contend with broken tile anymore, which is nice. I like that. Thank you so much. And we hit the stretch goal of 1,500, which means that we can start production on Dakimakura. If you don't know what that is, I don't know, you know what a body pillow is? Yee. So we have to, or rather I have already contacted, since we did hit this goal a couple of days ago, I've contacted an artist to begin working on a design for the Dakimakura. So like it will be art that you've never seen before. I'm super excited. I actually high-key want to get it for myself too. Do you think that's weird? Do you think that's narcissistic if I had a Daki of myself? Hi, Pochi. How about one day making a challenge for yourself, streaming till a creeper is on me? That's not... Like, I would literally just end the stream. Like, wait. There's a reason creeper is on the menu. Because I'm scared. Hi, Instance. Self-love is important too. I mean, you gotta check the goals. You're right, Noni. You're so smart. Hi, Peebus. You're so smart. I should get 2 of myself. I could get 3 because I think there's gonna be 3 different versions. Teehee. Sorry about that. Maybe 4, but like, we'll see. I know VTubers collect all their merch because they're proud of reaching the point of... Exactly, I am actually. So I don't know if I have to request it from management, but they do typically give me merch of myself. So that's good. Oh, the spoilage. Surprised I still have my voice? Barely. Barely, Michael. Barely. 3, 4... Let's just say, so like a pillow has 2 sides. So there might be 4, but you can get like 2 on one pillow. I think. I don't know how it's gonna go. I don't know how it's gonna go yet. But there's going to be 4 different types of illustrations if all goes well. If, okay, it's a very big if. I don't know yet because it has something to do with the color. If you catch my drift. I'm crossing my fingers for you, IJ, if not for my sake, but for yours. I sound very different. Exactly, Sunfire. Yeah, exactly. After this week, I'm gonna take a rest. Yes, I am. Because I need to come back. Like, my voice needs to come back. I might go mute and have to communicate with the harmonica or kazoo. Yeah, exactly, Sora. That's what I'm worried about. Like, my family just coming in and seeing that. You know? That'd be a little hard to explain to my family why I'm hugging an anime woman. My grandparents kind of don't understand. Like one side kind of does. Like, my grandpa kind of does, but my grandma, who has dementia, she doesn't like retain information like she used to. She was a very smart lady. She still is, but you know what I mean. Perhaps, mayhaps. Especially since it is myself. My parents would be like, why do you have a body pillow of yourself? And I'd be like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Mom. Don't worry about it, Dad. I just needed a new pillow. It's fine. Don't worry about it. A 2-layered daki base design. Oh. That's a good idea. Okay. Where are we? Yes. Okay, so I was just giving an update about the donation, how it's going. And then if we reach 2K, we shall unleash evil. What evil? True evil. Evil beyond comprehension of like current science. Why? Because when I was like, hey, management, I think chat's a little worried about me. They kind of don't want me to do a horrorthon part 2. And that conversation happened during I think it was the other day on the Releum community Discord. So I said I may need to replace the $2,000 goal. And so I was like, they said, okay, well, you have to do something that you wouldn't otherwise do normally on your own. And at first I was like, what about if I write a fanfic, like a serious fan fiction? Because they were like, what about, read some of your old fanfic? And I got into fanfic really late, so I don't have like really old fanfic, and like it's still up. And if I read those works, it could potentially lead to me. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? So I was like, I had a lot of. It was a spaghetti on the wall moment. You know what I mean? Oh, have a lovely day, Sakura. So, a Cela x Evil Cela fanfic. Well, there's an idea. I could do that. I'm actually known for writing. I've never wrote girls' love. Well, it's not gonna be love, unless you consider that self-love. Anyway. Oh, spaghetti on the wall moment. Like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. No. No. Okay, so it's basically, they say that to tell if spaghetti is ready and you don't have a timer, throw it on the wall. If it sticks, it's ready. If it doesn't, if it just like falls off, then it's not ready. Oh my gosh, you're right. You're actually right. Thank you for that art, by the way. It was magical. Amazing. Do we think Kid would be the one being cabedoned? I don't know. But I am taller than her. Nice. I'm not into Yuri, but I can make an exception for Gisela X. Yeah. For Grella X Jella. What? Yeah. Doomed Yuri? Indeed. So, Evil Unleashed. I said, what if I do... Because, like, this is my regular form. This is just how I am. And Evil Cela, when she comes out, I just have to be a little extra. I mean, I don't have to be a little extra anything. She just has a mind of her own. She's just very different. I refer to her in the third person. I always refer to Evil Cela in the third person. So I was like, why don't I do like a one whole stream where it's just Evil Cela? And they're like, that could work. As I said, I'm not doing that on my own. Like, I'm not doing that on my own volition. Yet you'd have to, like, convince me. Kid wants to be cabedon since she might trip and... Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. You might be taller, but is Kid the kind of girl you can actually cabedon? Or would she be... She might actually be the short dom. That's... I don't know. Evil Cela is the Sukuna to your poor Yuji. I know. The only difference I notice is that she doesn't have the proper student council filter. Well, that's because Evil Cela isn't the student council. I am the student council president. Evil Cela is just some girl. Hi, Cody! Welcome, welcome! Honestly, I always see Evil Cela as taking off her personal limitations. Oh my. We could do that. We could do that. So, also, an Evil Cela stream would have to be tagged as 18+. That's another thing. So that would severely limit my reach. So I would definitely, I think otherwise about doing like a 100% Evil Cela. So Evil Cela just randomly commenting about whatever Cela is doing. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out if you ever unleash the evil. Who knows though? Not me. I'm amazed how non-gremlin Kid's design is. I got used to her looking like Neko Arc until I saw her little... I was a little... Yeah, me too. I saw her and I'm like... I am no better than a man. Locked. Locked on to I'm her eyes are beautiful. I mean, yeah, right? Yes, her eyes are such a good asset that I think they're her defining feature. Sorry, yeah, you know what I mean? I'm no better than a man. Yeah. If I did a full Cela, if I did a full evil Cela stream, she would have to be either like definitely 18 plus only. It's either going to be like a member stream or an 18 plus only. What color are her eyes? What color are kids' eyes? Eh? What? Mimi has blue eyes. Lorelai has green eyes. I think Mira has red eyes. What color are kids' eyes? Noose has red eyes. Achi. How about kid? What color are kids' eyes? What color are kids? I don't know. I don't know what color kids' eyes are. I don't know what color her torpedoes are powerful. I know. They're amazing. You know what? Yeah. Oh, Mira has one red, one green. Oh. Oh, that's pretty neat. So yes, never looked her friend in the eye. I mean, hi, Rosso. An evil Cela stream has to have her constrained, monitored, and bound like Tai Long. That's how I keep her in the basement. I mean, cellar. I mean, she's fine. Don't worry about her. Don't worry about her. She's fine. Oh, yeah, Mira has homophobia in her eyes. Yeah, that's true. This will be interesting. Let me go look up kid right now. Oh, they are purple. Oh, they are purple. Okay. I think today we could read horror stories. Is there an in-lore explanation to why Cela has a red version? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. My diary's been returned and I think I don't remember. Because it may or may not have been a traumatic event. Becoming student council president and having to put a filter on. I don't know. We'll find out. My colorblind ass saw them as blue. Okay, I know it is really late for you, Tony. Thank you so much. I still appreciate. That's why I appreciate you coming by, because I know it's so late for you. Night night. If you want horror, the Magnus Archives Ep 1 would be a fun 20-minute reaction. Hello, Ganasha. My only problem right now is I can't... Like, you can't hear background music while I play it, if that makes sense. Hello, Verlore. Night-night, sweet dreams, Tony. Mwah. Evil Cela is essentially redacted. Exactly. The extended view of this file is prohibited without executive authorization. I tripped over my words there, but yeah. When your house is haunted but rent is cheap. It's all audio anyway, so it should be fine. That's the problem. The audio could be copyright claimed. I was just gonna read no sleep stories from Reddit because I really like those. We could do that. though. What's it called? Magnus Archives. I woke up at 4 a.m. today. So yesterday I went for a massage. Because, okay, so like I woke up at like 7 p.m. the other day. Then I was supposed to go back to sleep, but I couldn't go back to sleep because obviously I woke up at 7 p.m. And then I had to stream. So I said, I'm going to go sleep after stream. But then stuff happened. I had to go eat lunch. And then I had to go pay my internet bill. So I went to go pay my internet bill. And then after that, I went to go get a massage because I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so stressed. I feel so tired. I feel like my body feels like it's been beat up. So I go to get a massage. I finish at like 5:30. And I eventually come home. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Time for bed. The massage was super good. It wasn't a relaxing... That's not the word. It was like a de-stress slash tension resolving massage, which sort of focuses more on like your hips and your lower back, mid to low back. They also asked if I wanted a specific focus, if I wanted like a head focus but I picked the mid to low back. So it starts off as a full body massage as you know, these things usually do. And then I remember I was just like in and out. I was in and out of sleep. Yeah, that's true. Not at all. They would have, if that happened after day 1, they would have had to carry me there in a bucket. I'm surprised by how I simply can't pick up Filipino words. That's fine. And then yeah, in a bucket, because I was scared. I was so scared out of my mind that I must have vibrated so violently so as to turn into a bucket of goop at the end of that stream. It was so bad. I'm not asking this because I'm a degenerate. Do you have to be naked? I have my... No. You usually have like your bottom underwear on. But the rest has to go. So I have my like panties. My briefs. I actually wore a brief because... How do I explain this? I like how snug briefs are. And this might... Okay, cover your ears. Cover your ears if you don't want to hear the next part because it might be TMI. But like, since I had my period, like, it's just more secure to keep things in, if that makes sense. My sanitary products, so they sit better on briefs. So I actually have like 4 briefs just for, specifically for that I use specifically at a time, that certain time of month. That's it. They are really snug and they fit so well. Like, I like my panties very... Hold on, I just realized something. Are you alive? Are you alive? It is not alive. Hello? Is it alive? Yes, it's alive. Okay. I just wanted to check. Lol. It's my pulsoid. Pulsoid. So I like my panties like nice and... I wouldn't call them loose, but like not tight. I don't like them chafing or, you know. But I like them cute. So they can't be too tight. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But it is what it is. It makes more sense for men. I agree. It does make more sense for women to wear pants and men to use skirts. That makes sense, Zenny, and I'm so sorry. It was very not fun. Oh, you're still here, Sakura. Lovely. So yeah, that's why. So, and then I got home. And then I took an antihistamine because my asthma has been acting up, right? And I have actually been off of my maintenance meds and off of my my maintenance meds because they increase anxiety, and I didn't want that to happen. So actually, Zenny, it did. That's what killed me after the first 2 days. I literally was bedridden. I was bedridden on it'd be Sunday for America, but it would be Monday for the Philippines. I was bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't even eat. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. Where else? What else are we doing? So yeah, I just wanted to maybe read to you today. What are we thinking? Oh wait, I was gonna look for the... Wait, Toffee, can you say the thing again? I am so sorry, Byakuya. Ooh. Did you ever in your life imagine you could get a whole ass air conditioner by screaming and crying for 2 days? To be fair, I got the air conditioner for after 1 day. No. The answer is no. I didn't. I kind of... Okay, I also agree with whoever's statement it was that I kind of dig the whole low voice. I kind of like it. But also... it does take a little extra to just make sound. So I will be taking a nice long break. I was basically in a coma yesterday after the antihistamine. So I went to bed at like 6. And I told my brother, yo, I'm not gonna have dinner. I'm not gonna be having dinner, okay? So he assumed that I was going out. Because I remember his reply was, okay, pasalubong, which means like bring something home. Rusty quill policy. Oh, really? Oh, that's neat. Thank you. What's it called? Magnus Archives. Ooh. Which one do you want? Because it seems like a series. Reminds me of that episode of Phineas and Ferb where Candace got an allergic reaction. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad. I am. I mean, as much as I can, because the horror-thon has really gotten to me. So I went to bed at 6 p.m. and I woke up at 4 a.m. really hungry, so I went and got some Jollibee. Ooh. I'm okay without the visual, I think, but that would be... What's it? Okay. Episode 1, The Anglerfish. Okay. I'm gonna watch that one. Honestly, the fact that Cela can see the positive in such situations is honestly one of the qualities I like about her the most. Oh, that's so sweet. That makes sense. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I mean... You have to see the good in things because life is so hard. I also have not sworn that much on stream ever. I don't swear on stream. I almost never swear on stream. I will occasionally. Okay? But anyway, as I was saying, life, and let me swear this during this instance too. Life is fucking hard. You have to see the good in things, otherwise, you know, that life just doesn't give you anything. Life gives you a million and one reasons to hate it, to lay down and cry. But if you can find the good parts, the reasons to keep going on, despite that, then you will reach better days when you're like sitting on the couch, or well, in my case, I'm sitting on the couch in a place that I can call my own, that I built with money I worked hard for, watching the sunrise, listening to the birds in the morning and thinking, this ain't so bad. That's why I keep trying to see the better sides of things. Not to be too sappy, but that's how I am. I learned to curse in Filipino thanks to the last 3 streams. Yeah. I've been terrified, Byakuya, to be very honest. Hi, Wayne. Okay, I'm gonna change my tag. I'm gonna change my stream title on Twitch. Talking with you makes me want to keep going. I'm glad. Keep that spark. Keep that spark alive. If no one's gonna keep it alive for you, then you must. Watch the daisies grow, creep and grow through cracks on the pavement, and think that that's inspirational, because it is. Like each and every one of you having a hard time today, or any day, if you keep going, then you're inspirational. It's okay, Zenny. Me too. I feel bad when I watch playback. By the way, I've also, like, in case you missed it, I uploaded a short. It's also on Twitter. If you can, leave a like or a comment on it. And if you could, please watch the full video, because it does help me out when you reach the end of anything. Members saw it first though, so there's that. That makes sense. I'd have to listen to that Byakuya. I don't think I've heard it. Okay, so upon Tofi's referral, I will be reacting to the Magnus Archives today, and we can listen to it, which is pretty neat. Yippee! Are we ready? Does it have music? I wonder. Boo. Haha. Yeah, ayoko means like I don't want to. It's either like I don't want to anymore, I don't want it. It's just like generally I don't want. That means that's what it is, like transliteration wise, like literally just means I don't want. So I was screaming, I don't want to anymore, I don't want to anymore. Ayoko na, I don't want to anymore, I don't want this anymore. Okie dokes and fire, thank you so much. I would share a lyric, but it's better you hear. Yes. Okie doke. Is there music in it, Toffee? Good night, Sinfire. Mwah, mwah. Ooh, thank you for the hydrate, Redeem Reiki. Okie doke, Sakura. Okay, I'll play music then. My own music. Okay, are we ready? That's what I meant. Cela was screaming in Filipino so quick. I didn't pick up. She was talking in another language. That's funny. Okay, let's play music. Oh, where is my music? How do... This one. Okay. Oh, let me first drop the link in case anyone wants to follow along. Also, let me put this here. Oh, hi Nimby. How are ya? Let me just pin this right there. Hi Kai. Okie dokie bo. Okie dokie pokey. Let's begin, shall we? We are going to be listening to the Magnus Archives #1, Anglerfish.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
Yes, Byakuya.
Episode 1, Anglerfish.
Oh, okay.
Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Right. My name is Jonathan Sims. I work for the Magnus Institute, London.
Oh.
An organization dedicated to academic research into the esoteric and the paranormal.
Okay.
The head of the institute, Mr. Elias Bouchard, has employed me to replace the previous head archivist, one Gertrude Robinson, who has recently passed away. I've been working as a researcher at the Institute for 4 years now, and I'm familiar with most of our more significant contracts and projects. Most reach dead ends, predictably enough, as incidents of the supernatural, such as they are, and I always emphasize there are very few genuine cases, tend to resist easy conclusions. When an investigation has gone as far as it can, it is transferred to the archives. Now, the Institute was founded in 1818, which means that the archive contains almost 200 years of case files at this point. Combine that with the fact that most of the Institute prefers the ivory tower of pure academia to the complicated work of dealing with statements or recent experiences.
Fair enough.
And you have the recipe for an impeccably organized library and an absolute mess of an archive. This isn't necessarily a problem. Modern filing and indexing systems are a real wonder, and all it would need is a half-decent archivist to keep it in order. Gertrude Robinson was apparently not that archivist. From where I am sitting, I can see thousands of files, many spread loosely around the place, others crushed into unmarked boxes. A few have dates on them, or helpful labels such as 86-91G/H. Not only that, but most of them appear to be handwritten or produced on a typewriter, with no accompanying digital or audio versions of any sort. In fact, I believe the first computer to ever enter this room is the laptop that I brought in today. More importantly, it seems as though little of the actual investigations have been stored in the archives, so the only thing in most of the files are the statements themselves. It is going to take me a long time to organize this mess. I've managed to secure the services of 2 researchers to assist me. Well, technically 3, but I don't count Martin, as he's unlikely to contribute anything but delays. I plan to digitize the files as much as possible and record audio versions, though some will have to be on tape recorder, as my attempts to get them on my laptop have met with significant audio distortions.
Oh, I like that.
Alongside this, Tim,
I find that
Sasha,
cool.
and Yes, I suppose Martin will be doing some supplementary investigation to see what details may be missing from what we have. I'll try to present these in as succinct a fashion as I can at the end of each statement. I can unfortunately promise no order in regards to date or theme of the statements that are recorded, and can only apologize to any future researcher attempting to use these files for their own investigations.
Okay.
That's probably
Okay,
enough time
Kunoshi.
spent making my excuses for the state of this place, and I suppose we have to begin somewhere.
Am I a podcast person? Sometimes.
Statement of Nathan Watts regarding an encounter on Old Fish Market Close, Edinburgh. Original statement given April 22nd, 2012. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. This all happened a couple of years ago, so I apologize if some of the details are a bit off. I mean, I feel like I remember it clearly, but sometimes things
Why am
are
I
so
over
weird
there?
that you start to doubt yourself. Still, I suppose weird is kind of what you guys do, right? So I'm studying at the University of Edinburgh, biochemistry specifically, and I was in my second year at the time this happened. I wasn't in any sort of university accommodation at this point and was renting a student flat down in Southside with a few other second years. To be honest, I didn't hang out with them much. I took a gap year before matriculating, and my birthday's in the wrong part of September, so I was nearly 2 years older than most of my peers when I started my course. I got on with them fine, you understand, but I tended to end up hanging out with some of the older students. That's why I was at the party in the first place. Michael Macaulay, a good friend of mine, had just been accepted to do a master's degree in Earth Sciences, so we decided a celebration was in order. Well, maybe party isn't quite the right word. We just kind of invaded the Almanac down on the Royal Mile and drank long enough and loud enough that eventually we had the back area to ourselves. Now, I don't know how well you know the drinking holes of Edinburgh, but the Almanac has a wide selection of some excellent single malts, and I may have slightly overindulged.
Okay.
I have vague memories of Mike suggesting I slow down, to which I responded by roundly swearing at him for failing to properly celebrate his own good news, or words to that effect. Long story short, I was violently ill
Hi,
around
Zombie
midnight
Hunter.
and made the decision to walk the route home.
Okay.
It wasn't far to my flat, maybe half an hour if I'd been sober, and the night was cool enough
kinda
that
like
I
this
remember having a
style
hope that the chill would
of,
perk me up some.
narrative.
I headed for the Cowgate, and the quickest way to get there from the Royal Mile is down Old Fish Market Close. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that there are some steep hills in Edinburgh, but Old Fish Market Close is exceptional, even by those standards. At times it must reach a 30 or 40 degree angle, which is hard enough to navigate when you don't have that much scotch inside you.
30-degree
As I
angle. That's
mentioned,
crazy.
I had quite a lot, so it probably wasn't that surprising when I
That
took a
is
rather nasty tumble about
terrible.
halfway down the street.
Ugh.
In retrospect, the fall wasn't that bad compared to what it could have been, but at the time it really shook me up and left me with some nasty bruises. I picked myself up as best I could, checked I hadn't seriously injured myself, no broken bones or anything, and decided to roll a cigarette to calm myself.
Yeah, almost a
when I
full
heard it.
diagonal.
Can I have a cigarette? I was startled out of my thoughts by the words, as I thought I had been alone. Quickly trying to compose myself and looking around, I noticed a small alleyway on the opposite side of the street. It was very narrow and completely unlit, with a short staircase leading up. I could see a light fixture a little way up the wall at its entrance, but it either wasn't working or wasn't turned on, meaning that beyond a few steps the alley was shrouded in total darkness. Stood there, a couple of stairs from the street, was a figure. It was hard to tell much about them as they were mostly in the shadows, though if I'd had to guess I would have said the voice sounded male. They seemed to sway ever so slightly as I watched, and I assumed that they, like me, were probably a little bit drunk. I lit my own cigarette and held out my tobacco towards them, though I didn't approach, and asked if they were okay with a roll-up. The figure didn't move, except to continue that gentle swaying. Writing it down now, it seems so
Hi,
obvious
Aeon.
that something was wrong. If I hadn't been so drunk, maybe I'd have noticed quicker, but even when the stranger asked the question again, "Can I have a cigarette?" utterly without intonation. Still, I didn't understand why I was so uneasy. I stared at the stranger, and as my eyes began to adjust, I could make out more details. I could see that their face appeared blank, expressionless, and their skin seemed damp and slightly sunken, like they had a bad fever. The swaying was more pronounced now, seeming to move from the waist, side to side, back and forth. By this point I had finished rolling a second cigarette and gingerly held it out towards them, but I didn't get any closer. I decided that if this weirdo wanted a cigarette, they were going to need to come out of the creepy alleyway.
Good idea.
They didn't come closer, didn't make any movement at all, except for that damn swaying. For some reason, the thought of an anglerfish popped into my head. The single point of light dangled into the darkness,
Chestnut.
hiding
Good evening.
the thing that lures you in. Can I have a cigarette? It spoke again in the same flat voice, and I realized exactly what was wrong. Its mouth was closed, had been the whole time. Whatever was repeating that question, it wasn't the figure in the alleyway. I looked at their feet and saw that they weren't quite touching the ground. The stranger's form was being lifted ever so slightly and moved gently from side to side. I dropped the cigarette and grabbed for my phone, trying to turn on the torch. I don't know why I didn't run or what I hoped to see in that alley, but I wanted to get a better look. As soon as I took out my phone, the figure disappeared. It sort of folded at the waist and vanished back into the darkness, as if a string had gone taut and pulled it back. I turned on the torch and stared into the alley, but I saw nothing.
Run!
Just
Run,
silence.
bitch! Run!
I staggered back up to the Royal Mile, which still had lights and people, and found a taxi to take me home. I slept late the next day. I'd made sure I didn't have any lectures or classes, as I had intended to be sleeping off a heavy night of drinking, which I guess I was, although it was that bizarre encounter that kept playing in my mind. And so, after making my way through 2 liters of water, some painkillers, and a very greasy breakfast, I felt human enough to leave my flat and go to investigate the place in daylight. The result was unenlightening. There were no marks, no blood stains, nothing to indicate that
Who
the
calls
swaying
flashlight a
figure had ever
torch?
been
A
there
Brit.
at all.
That's who.
The only
Well,
thing
not
I
a
did
Brit.
find
From someone from
was an
UK.
unsmoked Marlboro Red cigarette, lying just below the burned-out light fixture. Beyond that, I didn't really know
Oh
what
my
to
god,
do.
there was a
I did as
victim!
much research as I could on the place, but couldn't find anyone who'd had any experience similar to
Hi,
mine.
Vitten.
There didn't seem to be any folklore or urban legends I could find out about Old Fish Market Close. The few friends I'd told about what happened just assumed I'd been accosted by some stranger, and the alcohol had made it seem much weirder than it was. I tried to explain that I'd never had hallucinations while drunk, and that there was no way this guy had just been a normal person.
Whoops.
But they always gave me one of those looks, halfway between pity and concern, and I'd shut up. I never did find out anything else about it.
I don't know what you can see
But a
right
few
now.
days later, I saw some missing person appeals go up around campus.
I knew it. I knew it. That's
Another
what
student had
they
disappeared.
smoked the Marlboro.
John Fellows, his name was, though I didn't really know the guy and couldn't tell you much about
Sorry,
him.
hold on.
Except for 2
I wanna hold the
that struck
stickle.
me as very important.
Sorry.
He'd been at that same party and, as far as I remembered, had still been there when I left. The other was just that, well, on the photo they'd used for his missing persons appeal, I couldn't help but notice
The
there
Marlboro
was a pack
Red.
of Marlboro Red cigarettes poking out of his pocket.
Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna hold
I
it.
haven't quit smoking, but I do find that I take a lot more taxis now if I find myself out too late.
Brother, you should quit smoking.
Statement ends.
Quit
The
smoking.
investigation at the time and the follow-up we've done over the last couple of days have found no evidence to corroborate Mr. Watt's account of his experience. I was initially inclined to refile this statement in the discredited section of the archive, a new category I've created that will, I suspect, be housing the majority of these files. However,
Crazy.
Sasha did some digging into the police reports of the time, and it turns out that between 2005 and 2010, when Mr. Watt's encounter supposedly took place, there were 6 disappearances in and around the old fish market close. Jessica McEwen in November 2005, Sarah Baldwin in August 2006, Daniel Rawlings in December of the same year, then Ashley Dobson and Megan Shaw in May and June of 2008. Then finally, as Mr. Watts mentioned, John Fellows in March 2010. All 6 disappearances remain unsolved. Baldwin and Shaw were definitely smokers, but there's no evidence either way about the others, if they're even connected. Sasha did find one other thing, specifically in the case of Ashley Dobson. It was a copy of the last photograph taken by her phone and sent to her sister Siobhan. The caption was, "Check out this drunk creeper, LOL." But the picture is of a darkened, apparently empty alleyway, with stairs leading up into it. It appears to be the same alleyway which Mr. Watts described in his statement, the one that, according to maps of the area, leads to Tron Square. But there doesn't seem to be anyone in the photograph at all. Sasha took the liberty of running it through some editing programs, though, and increasing the contrast appears to reveal the outline of a long, thin hand, roughly at what would be waist level on a male of average height. I find it oddly hard to shake off the impression that it's beckoning. End recording.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by rustyquill.com and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike International License. Today's episode was written and performed by Jonathan Sims. It was produced and directed by Alexander J. Newell. To comment on episodes, make donations and view links, images, videos, and show notes, visit rustyquill.com. Rate and review us on iTunes, visit us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter at @TheRustyQuill, or email us at mail@rustyquill.com.
That was actually pretty good.
Thanks for listening.
I like this. I liked it a lot. Hi, Leonie. Okay, so what is the Magnus Archives? What is the Magnus Archives? Good question. The Magnus Archives, let's go read it. Is a weekly horror fiction anthology podcast examining what lurks in the archives of the Magnus Institute, an organization dedicated to researching the esoteric and the weird. Join new head archivist Jonathan Sims as he attempts to bring a seemingly neglected collection of supernatural statements up to date, converting them to audio and supplementing them with follow-up work from his small but dedicated team. Individually, they are unsettling. Together, they begin to form a picture that is truly horrifying because as they look into the depths of the archives, something starts to look back. Wow. That's a lot. It's got like 5 seasons. Okay. Hold on. I have to put this on streamer mode. I have to put Discord on streamer mode. Shh, quiet. There we go. You know what I don't like about being Filipino? Well, one, being Filipino, but also two, scheduling collabs or anything is terrible because I love Europeans. And because I love Europeans and I am not I'm at New Arcadia Academy and not doing anything else, like interning like I used to. I usually have to adjust, meaning collabs happen at like 6:30 in the morning or 5 or 4 a.m., stuff like that. Added to watch later. Which one? The Magnus files? It's the Magnus Archives. It's actually pretty good. Exactly, Byakuya. Good morning, Lesser. Why are you awake? Why are you awake? Would it be a D-move to tip while this thing is playing? You are more than welcome to. But remember, move. Sorry. Wait, why did that play? Hold on. Where did that play? I don't understand why that played. Stream elements. Haha, thank you so much. Tangling Sphinx. That was I quite liked it. Wait, let me go check the menu real quick. There's no $20. If you tip anywhere, that is not like an exact amount, and hold on, give me a sec, because where is this? What is this? The HORRORTHON menu. It will give you that exact boo. Oh, this is not the menu. This is what is this? What is this? Oh, this is actually the HORRORTHON menu. So if you tip that anywhere that's not in the exact amount, it's going to just boo. Hi, Shihamaru. Oh, Sihamaru. There we go. Let's see. Ooh, that was interesting. Okay, let's talk about it a little bit. So I like the premise. I like that we had established the universe in the first one. Let me see. Yeah, I quite liked that one. The anglerfish. As soon as the narrator mentioned that the person was like barely touching the ground, and because they mentioned that they were swaying like crazy. What's the word I'm looking for? I was like, oh, that's the anglerfish. That's the worm. The dead body is the worm, and they're trying to grab people who ask for a light, for a cigarette. Luckily, only need to get up at 12 today. Oh, I see. The one with the guy having like a cow skull for a head. Wait, what? Oh, no. I take it you are not much of a thalassophobe. Thalassophobe. I don't like being in open water. Like, I don't like scuba diving in open water. I've done it once before. There was this beautiful island. I went scuba diving. I watched some sea turtles. I love looking at coral. But then there's like this extremely steep drop off. So the rest of like the area is wonderfully would I say shallow? Let's have some music. Yeah. So it's an extremely shallow not island, but like beach for quite a while. Like it's like 4 kilometers or like 3 kilometers extending all around the island. Is pretty shallow, and then this is way too scary for what I'm talking about. Let's go here. Okay. And then what do you call this? They bring you towards this. They bring you because it's like a guided tour but underwater. Okay, so we went and we actually watched a school of jacks. It was so beautiful. So a school of jacks. The first time I ever saw a school of fish underwater, it was amazing. It's just like several different flashes, brilliant flashes of silver underwater. And when you get to a certain depth, everything is so dark. It gets murky and dark. It's not murky, but like the colors get so desaturated. So seeing all of these fish scales just glint in the light, like catching the light when you're underwater, it's so beautiful. So we started swimming towards the school of fish. And then I remember just like all of a sudden, because you know, you're in the water, you can semi-control whether you go up or down. And then I remember we chased the school of fish. Then as we got close, I realized they went down, like low. They went down and straight down. And then, so my eyes follow them as we were like going towards where they were. My eyes follow them and I realize it's a steep cliff. Now, you know, like you are so used to being on dry land that when you look down and there's nothing there, you like, there's a fear of falling. But here I am in scuba gear, and then all of a sudden, there is no floor beneath me. It is just abyss, dark abyss. That kind of unlocked my fear of the open water. Like, it was like it felt like staring down into the street from the top of a really high building. But the difference is I was like off of the ledge, and it scared the whole bejesus out of me. I was like, you know, like just signaling, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here to the scuba instructor. I was like, no, let's go back to like where my feet can touch the ground. How expensive was it? Was scuba diving? I would have to say, hold on. Let me go convert it. It was about... Actually, let me convert it using a calculator because it wasn't... The exchange rates were different back then. I'm gonna say it was this one. Maybe this. $266 for a couple of hours over 2 days. Happy lurking, Trelo. I can only imagine you squirming so much after a real... Exactly. For the most part, I was like, you know, just like floating. It's fine. A couple of nice kicks, guiding yourself, just like watching. Beautiful, large, you know, giant clams. We have the largest clams in the world. Some of the largest clams in the world. They're so stunning. The colors are so vibrant underwater. It has this most like electric blue with oh, thank you so much for the new follow, Snug Browser. I hope you enjoy your stay. With bright green rings that are kind of like peacock green. They're so pretty. And it's so weird because when you're underwater, the light refracts very differently. So you're used to seeing our eyes and our brain is used to seeing things like light bouncing back to us, to our eyes at a specific frequency, so we know where things are in relation to us. But underwater, refraction is very different. So you are a lot farther like things are a lot farther than they seem underwater. You think you're about to hit something, but you realize when you reach your hand out, it is actually quite far. Since you developed a fear of the open ocean, then how about you feel about spending a couple of days in a hotel at the bottom of the ocean? I would be terrified because what if it broke? What if the water seal broke? Like if I'm at the bottom of the ocean, then the amount of pressure just bearing down on me on the structure would be enough to scare me. But I always do tell people, trust engineers, trust the humans that built this. Sometimes when you stare into the abyss and roll for initiative, the abyss rolls for initiative back, you know. $200 for several hours, that's a steal. It was while I live in the Philippines, so. You like anime? I actually like anime. I still haven't finished watching Love Through a Prism. I'm working through that. It's like my comfort anime nowadays. And I started watching Gachi. It has to be OSHA certified, so Prez would be inclined to stay there. Amen. Amen. For horror to educational, as expected of Cela, we learned quite a bit from you. Yes. Actually, I can even tell you the name of the giant clam. I think it was a Tridacna. Tridacna gigas, indeed. The largest clam in the world. Tridacna gigas, or the giant clam. It's so beautiful. Here, let me grab a picture. Honestly, the pictures don't do it justice. Like, it looks crazy underwater. Bright blue lips. All my homies hate WebB. Will you see it? Oh, you will see it. This is what it looked like. And the thing is, it looks so huge. You thought... And I told you that everything looks closer than it actually is. So it looked like it felt like I was face to face with this thing. And if you can, let me just like... Imagine seeing it like that and it's like this big in comparison to your body. Wouldn't you be scared? Like you're face to face with something this big. Giga clam. Am I enjoying Gachi so far? I'm on episode 2 so far. I find the art style actually quite interesting. And the premise too. I don't know what's going on yet because I just started it. Hello, Mimikyu dayo. Welcome, welcome. This is a giant clam. Actually, this looks small for a giant clam. I'm not even gonna lie. I'll try to see if there are other pictures, but that's what you see underwater when you go scuba diving. They look kind of crazy. And sometimes you don't even notice them, especially when their mouths are closed. Let me go grab another photo for you. They are huge. Like that. In comparison to me, they were like just really big. You feel like they could eat you whole. They'd probably choke on you though. I would be dazed at the sight. They're siphon feeders though, so they eat things like plankton. They won't eat you. You would choke. They would choke. Color me surprised. And the thing is, cameras don't seem to really capture the color because it's so vibrant IRL. Yeah. What's next on the queue? Episode 2. Yes, episode 2 will be up next. Okay, let's go back. Even those small Australian ones. Hey! Are you talking about jellyfish? Hold on. That was shark
Rusty
bite.
Quill presents
Sorry, I got scared.
the Magnus Archives.
Because 95 of the time they stay away from human areas. Jellyfish? Oh, the number of times I got stung by a jellyfish during that trip when I saw the big clams.
Episode 1.
Crazy.
Anglerfish.
It wasn't even like whole jellyfish. It was just like jellyfish stingers that shed. Really annoying. Oh, why did it did play again? Sorry. I was okay. It wasn't anything too serious. They're just painful. These ones are just painful. Also, they were dead. Because it was like, again, just the stingers that had shed off. They were just in the water, so it wasn't the actual jellyfish.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
Wow.
Episode 2. Do not open.
Yes. I wish I had popcorn. Should I make popcorn? I totally didn't get scared from that. No.
Statement of Joshua Gillespie regarding his time in possession of an apparently empty wooden casket. Original statement given November 22nd, 1998. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. It started when I was in Amsterdam for a holiday with a few of my friends. Everything you're thinking right now, you're right. We were all early 20s, just graduated, and decided to spend a couple of weeks going crazy on the continent, so you can almost certainly fill in all the blanks yourself. There were very few points where I'd say that I was entirely sober, and even fewer where I acted like it.
Another
But
drunk?
I wasn't quite as bad as some of my friends who had a hard time handling themselves at times. This may have been why I headed out alone that morning. No idea of the exact date, but it was sometime in mid-May. The others were sleeping off their assorted hangovers.
Correct, American
I
bison. You
decided to
can't
head
get
out
away
into
fast.
the beautiful sunshine of that Netherlands morning and take a walk.
Oh.
Before graduating from Cardiff with the others, I had been studying architecture, so I was looking forward to spending a few hours by myself to wander and really take in the buildings of central Amsterdam.
Oh,
I was
I'd
not
love to go to
disappointed.
Amsterdam.
It's a beautiful city, but I realized too late that I hadn't taken any map or guidebook with me. And an hour or two
Thank
later,
you,
I was
Lee, and
thoroughly
yes.
lost. I wasn't particularly worried, as it was still mid-afternoon at this point, and getting lost in the back streets had kind of been what I was trying to do. But I still decided I'd better make an actual effort to find my way back to where my friends and I were staying off Ellenstraat. I managed it eventually, but my inability to speak Dutch meant I spent a good hour riding the wrong way on the various trams. By the time I got back to Ellenstraat, it was starting to get dark. I was feeling quite stressed, so I decided to pop into one of the cafes to relax before joining up with my friends. I couldn't say for sure exactly how long I was in there, but I do know it had gotten fully dark by the time I noticed I wasn't sat at my table alone. I've tried to describe the man who now sat opposite me many times, but it's difficult. He was short, very short, and felt like he had an odd density to him. His hair was brownish, I think, cut quite short, and he was clean-shaven. His face and dress were utterly unremarkable, and the more I try to think of exactly what he looked like, the harder it is to picture him clearly. To be honest, though,
Hi,
I'm
Kyoko.
inclined to blame that on the drugs. The man introduced himself as John, and asked how I was. I replied as best I could, and he nodded, saying he was also an Englishman inside a foreign land. I remember he used that exact phrase because it struck me at the time as very odd. He said he was from Liverpool, though I don't recall him having any sort of accent. and that he was looking for a friend who he could rely on for a favor. Now, high as I was, I got suspicious as soon as he said that last part, and I started to shake my head. John said it was nothing too onerous, just looking after a package for him until he had some friends pick it up, and that he would pay well. I thought he was talking about smuggling, and was about to refuse again when he reached into his jacket, I think, and pulled out an envelope. Inside was £10,000. I know, I counted it. I knew it was a stupid move, but I kept remembering my friend Richard telling me how easy it had been to get a pound of hash through customs on his first trip to Holland, and holding that much cash in my hands, I said yes. John smiled, thanked me, and said that
I
he would
agree,
be in touch.
Notsuro. I'm the same.
He left the coffee shop, and I immediately started panicking about what I had agreed to.
Oh,
I
we're
wanted
just
to chase
reacting
after him and
to a
return the money,
podcast.
but something weighed me down, kept me locked into my seat. I just sat there for a long time. I don't remember much about the next few days except worrying about when I'd see John again. I was careful not to spend any of the money he'd given me, and had decided to return it as soon as he turned up. I'd say I had made a mistake and couldn't take his money, or look after anything from him. I tried to enjoy myself,
Oh,
but it was
yeah.
like this shadow hanging over me, and I couldn't stop
Memecellar.
thinking about it. I waited for
That's
days, right up
creepy.
until the end of our trip, but he never showed up. I obsessively checked my suitcase before boarding the plane home, just in case someone had snuck something into it, but there was nothing new in there.
What?
I flew back to England with my friends still high and £10,000 tucked into my coat pocket.
10,000
surreal.
pounds. That's a lot.
It wasn't until almost a year later that I felt confident enough to actually spend any of the money. I'd moved down to work for a small architect's firm in Bournemouth on the south coast. It was an entry-level job and the pay wasn't great, but it was the only offer I got in my chosen field, so I moved down there with the hopes of getting some experience and a better position in a year or two. Bournemouth was a decent-sized seaside town, though much less idyllic than I'd assumed it would have been. But rents for a place of my own were a little bit out of my price range, given
Oh,
my
Alistair.
starting pay grade. I didn't know anyone else down there and wasn't keen to share my space with strangers, so I decided to use some of the money I'd been given in Amsterdam the previous year. I reasoned they were unlikely to find me at this stage. I'd not given John any of my details when he spoke to me, not even my name. And if they hadn't been able to find me over the course of the last year, it was doubtful they'd be able to track me here. Also, if it had been drug smuggling as I suspected, £10,000 probably wasn't so much money to them that they'd track me this far over it. Also, and looking back this sounds stupid, but I'd just grown a beard and thought it would be hard for anyone to recognize me as the same guy, so I spent a bit of John's money on renting a nice one-bedroom flat in the Triangle near the town centre and moved in almost immediately. About a week later, I was in my kitchen cutting up some fruit for breakfast, and I heard the doorbell ring.
Uh-huh.
I answered it to see two red-faced delivery men. Between them they carried an immense package, which they'd clearly had to maneuver up the narrow stairs of the building I lived in. They asked if I was Joshua Gillespie, and when I said yes, they said they had a delivery addressed to me, and pushed past into the hall. They didn't seem to be from any delivery company I knew, and they weren't wearing any uniforms. I tried to ask them some questions, but as soon as they'd placed the box on the floor, they turned around and walked out. They were both well over 6 feet tall and very imposing, so there was little I could have done to stop them leaving, even if I'd wanted to. The door slammed behind them, and I was left alone with this package. It was about 2 meters long, maybe 1 meter wide, and roughly the same deep. It was sealed with parcel tape, and written on the top was my name and address in thick, curving letters. But there was no return address or postmark of any sort. I was starting to risk being late for work at this point, but I decided I couldn't bring myself to leave without seeing what was inside, so I fetched the knife from my kitchen counter and cut the tape, keeping the box closed. Inside,
Fam, you could have called the police.
I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. My knife fell to the floor and I just stared
Morning,
at it in
bestie.
surprise. It was made of unvarnished pale yellow wood and had a thick metal chain wrapped around it, which was closed at the top with a heavy iron padlock. The lock was closed, but had the key sitting inside it. I started to reach for it when I noticed two other things on the coffin lid. The first was a piece of paper folded in half and tucked under the chain, which I took. The other was the presence of 3 words scratched deep into the wood of the casket in letters 3 inches high. They read, "Do not open."
Don't open it!
I withdrew my hand from the padlock slowly, unsure what I was supposed to do. At some point I must have sat down, as I found myself on the floor propped up against the wall, staring at this bizarre thing that had inexplicably turned up at my home. I remembered the piece of paper at this point and unfolded it, but it simply read, "Delivered with gratitude, J."
Jay?
Strange as it sounds, it was only then I made the connection with the man I'd met in Amsterdam.
Wasn't he
Told me
John?
he wanted someone to look after a package for a while. Was this the package he was talking about? Was I to be looking after a corpse? Who was coming to pick it up? When? I called in sick to work and just sat there, watching the coffin for what might have been minutes or might have been hours. I just had no idea what to do.
Oh,
Eventually,
Jay.
I steeled myself
Makes
and
sense.
moved towards it until my face was just
Like the letter
inches
J.
away from the lid. I took a deep breath,
Why
trying
would
to see
you-
if I could smell anything from inside.
Why would you try to smell a dead body?
If there was a dead body in there, it hadn't started to smell yet.
Disgusting.
Not that I really knew what a dead body smelled like. It was early summer at this point, which would mean that they must have died recently, if there was a body in there at all. As I got up, my hand brushed the wood of the coffin, and I realized it was warm. Very warm. Like it had been lying in the sun for hours. Something about it made my flesh crawl slightly, and I withdrew my hand quickly. I decided to make a cup of tea. It was something of a relief standing next to the kettle, as from that angle I couldn't see the thing out in the hall. I could just ignore it. I didn't move even after I'd filled my mug. I just stood there, sipping my tea, not even noticing it was still far too hot to drink comfortably. When I finally got the nerve to step back out into the hall, the coffin still lay there, unmoving. I finally made a decision and, firmly gripping the padlock, I removed the key, placed it on the
Don't!
hall table next to the door. I then took hold
no.
of the coffin and chain and started to pull it further into my flat. It was weird to touch it. The wood still had that unsettling warmth to it, but the chain was as cold as you'd expect from a thick piece of iron, and apparently hadn't taken on any of the heat. I didn't have any cupboards with enough space to hold the thing, so in the end I just dragged it into my living room and pushed it up against the wall as out of the way as possible. I cut up the cardboard box it had been sealed in and put it with the rubbish outside. And just like that I had, apparently, started storing a coffin in my home. At the time, I think I assumed it was full of drugs, at least as far as I assumed anything about the situation. Why anyone would store something in such a noticeable way, or with a total stranger like me, these weren't questions I could even guess at an answer to. But I decided it was best to think about it as little as possible. For the next few days I avoided my living room, as I found being so close to the thing made me nervous. I was also staying alert for the smell of any sort of rot, which might indicate there was something dead inside the coffin after all. I never smelled anything, though, and as the days passed, I found myself noticing my mysterious charge less and less. About a week
Crazy.
after it arrived,
Imagine treating it like
I
furniture.
finally started using my living room again. I'd watch TV mostly, and
He has no friends
keep
over?
half an eye on the unmoving casket. At one point, I got so cocky as to actually use it as a table.
He did
I was
start
drinking
using
a
it.
glass of orange juice at the time and absent-mindedly placed it on top of the lid,
Disgusting.
not really realizing exactly what I had done. At least, not until I heard movement from underneath it. I froze, listening intently and staring, willing myself to have been imagining things. But then it came again, a soft but insistent scratching, just below where I'd placed my glass. was slow and deliberate, and caused gentle ripples to spread across the surface of my juice. Needless to say, I was terrified. More than that, I was confused. The coffin had been lying in my living room, chained and unmoving, for well over a week at this point. If there had been anything living in there when it was delivered, it seemed unlikely it would still be alive. And why hadn't it made any sound before if there was something in there capable of movement? I gently picked up my glass, and immediately the scratching stopped. I waited for some time, considering my options, before I placed it back down on the other end of the lid. It took about 4 seconds for the scratching to start up again, now more insistently. When I took the glass away this time, it didn't stop for another 5 minutes. I decided against doing any further experiments, and instead made the very deliberate decision to ignore it. I felt at that point I either needed to use the heavy iron key to open it and see for myself what was in there, or follow the gouged instructions and resolve myself to never look inside.
No.
Some might call me a coward, but I decided
Coward, you're smart.
that I would interact with it as little as possible.
You're finally using your brain, sir.
Well, I guess lived may be the wrong term. I knew I'd made the right decision the next time it rained, and I heard the box begin to moan. It was a Saturday, and I was spending the day staying in and doing some light reading. I had
Exactly,
few friends in
Notsuro.
Bournemouth. Something about having a mysterious coffin lying in my living room made me reluctant to make the sort of connections that might lead to people coming round, and so I spent most of my free time alone.
Fear of being
I didn't watch
buried
a lot of
alive.
television even before my living room was taken over with storing this thing, and so I now found myself sat in my
Fear of
room
death.
reading quite a lot. I remember I'd just started Michael Crichton's The Lost World at the time, and it started raining outside. It was a hard, heavy rain, the sort that falls straight down with no wind to disturb it until everything is dark and wet. It was barely past midday, but I remember the sky was so overcast and
I
gloomy
agree, Allah, sir.
that I had to
I have
get
a
up to turn
fear
on the
of
light.
dumb people.
And that was when I
People
heard
as
it.
dumb as this. Holy sh.
It was a low, gentle sound. I've seen Dawn of the Dead. I know what the groans of the undead are meant to sound like, but it wasn't that at all. It was almost melodious. It sounded almost like singing, if it was muffled by 20 feet of hard-packed soil. At first, I thought it might have been coming from one of the other flats in my building, but as it went on and the hairs on my arm began to stand on end, I just knew where it was coming from. I walked to the living room and stood in the doorway, watching as the sealed wooden box continued to moan its soft, musical sound out of the rain. There was nothing to be done. I'd made my decision not to open it, and this certainly did not make me want to reconsider that. So I just went back to my bedroom, put on some music, and turned it up loud enough to drown out the sounds. And so it continued for a few months. Whatever was in the casket would scratch at anything placed on top of it and moan whenever it rained, and that was that. I suppose it goes to show that you can get used to anything if you have to, no matter how bizarre. I occasionally considered trying to get rid of it or finding people like you guys to investigate, but in the end I decided that I was actually more afraid of whoever was responsible for entrusting me with the coffin than I was of the actual coffin itself. So I kept it secret. The only thing that worried me was sleeping. I think it gave me bad dreams. I don't remember my dreams, never have, and if I was getting nightmares, they were no different. I didn't remember them, and I certainly don't now. But I know I kept waking up in a panic, clutching at my throat and struggling to breathe. I also started sleepwalking. The first time that happened, it was the cold that woke me up. It was the middle of winter, and I tend not to keep the heating on when I'm asleep. It took me a few seconds to fully process where I was. I was standing in the dark in my living room, over the coffin. What concerned me more about the situation was the fact that when I awoke, I seemed to be holding the key to it in my hand. Obviously this worried me. I even went to my GP about it, who referred me to the sleep clinic at the nearby hospital, but the problems never recurred in a clinical setting. I decided to hide the key in more and more difficult to access places, but still I kept waking up with it. I was starting to panic. When I awoke one morning to find I'd actually placed the key within the lock and was, as far as I could tell, moments from opening it. I knew I had to find a solution. In the end, what I took to doing was perhaps a bit elaborate, but it seemed to work. I would place the key within a bowl of water and then put it in the freezer, encasing it in a solid block of
Smart.
ice. I still sometimes found myself trying to get to the key in my sleep, but the chill of the ice always woke me up long before I could do anything with it. And in the end, it just became yet another part of my routine. I lived like that for almost a year and a half. It's funny how fear can just become as routine as hunger. At a certain point, I just accepted.
I agree, Alasar. Smart.
My first clue that my time keeping the coffin was coming to an end was when it began to rain and there was silence. I didn't notice at first, as my habit at that point had been to put on the music as soon as the weather began to turn. But after a few minutes, I realized that there wasn't anything to drown out. I turned off my music and went to check. The living room was silent. Then came a knock at the door.
Hi, Cornel.
The sound was light and unobtrusive, but it rang out like thunder in the quiet flat. I knew what I'd see as soon as I opened the door, and I was right. John and the 2 delivery men stood there. I wasn't surprised to see them, as I say, but they actually seemed quite surprised to see me. John had to take a second to look me up and down, almost in disbelief, as I asked if they'd come to collect their coffin. He
Hi,
said that they had,
Carlo.
and he hoped it hadn't been too much trouble. I told him where he could stick it, and he didn't seem to have an answer for that. He did seem genuinely impressed, however, when I got the key out of the freezer. I didn't even try to thaw it. I was so eager to have this thing out of my life that I just dropped the bowl of ice on the floor and shattered it. I watched as John picked the icy key off the floor, and I told them it was in the living room. I didn't follow them. I didn't want to see what they did with the coffin. I didn't want to see if they opened it.
Zombies?
And when the screaming started, I didn't want to see who was screaming or why. I only left the kitchen when the 2 delivery men carried the coffin past the door. I followed them down the stairs and watched in the pouring rain as they locked it into a small van marked Beacon and Hope Deliveries. Then they drove away. There was no sign of John. That was the last I heard of it. I got a new job and moved to London shortly afterwards. And now I just try not to think about it too much. Statement ends. It's always nice to hear that my hometown is not entirely devoid of odd occurrences and eerie stories. Ice cream, beaches, and boredom are all very well, but I'm glad to hear Bournemouth has at least a few apparitions to call its own. That said, the fact is Mr. Gillespie's statement starts with drug use and continues on with the lack of corroborating witnesses being a central theme, which means that an eerie story is all that it is. When the Institute first investigated, it doesn't look like they were able to find a single piece of evidence to support the existence of this scratched coffin. And to be honest, I didn't think it was worth wasting anyone's time over now, nearly 20 years later. That said, I did mention it to Tim yesterday, and apparently he did some digging of
Hi,
his own.
Hads.
Beacon and
It's
Hope
okay, Carlo.
did in fact exist and were a courier service that operated until 2009 when they went into liquidation. They were
Oh.
based in Nottingham, however, significantly north of Bournemouth,
Huh.
and if they kept records of their deliveries, they are no longer available. What is interesting, however, is the address Mr. Gillespie provided for the flat this all took place in. The housing association that ran it does keep extensive records on the tenants that have lived in their buildings going back some 40 or 50 years. From what Tim could find, it appears that for the 2 years of his residence, Mr. Gillespie was the only person living in that entire building, with the other 7 flats being utterly vacant. Nobody moved in following his departure, and the building was sold to a developer and demolished shortly after this statement was originally given. Predictably, No one who worked for that housing association in the 90s is still there, and despite Tim's best efforts, we could get no explanation for why, in a building of that size, Mr. Gillespie spent almost 2 years living alone, save for an old wooden coffin.
What? That's so
Recording ends.
crazy. It's a conspiracy, I'm telling ya. It's a horror podcast, and we're listening to a horror podcast right now.
The
Called
Magnus Archives
the
is a podcast
Magnus
distributed by
Archives.
rustyquill.com.
So
Licensed under a Creative Commons attribution.
I'm trying to figure it out. Melodious singing, quiet as if coming through 20 feet of solid dirt is the key sentence of this whole story. That and the story is about a coffin, something you bury. I was like, is it about like being buried alive? High just viewing. Will this give you nightmares? I hope not. I hope not. It is horror, but not a game. John just got eaten instead because the vampire was hungry. That's what I was thinking. They probably fed John to the vampire, because he. And the thing is, I'm thinking that maybe, okay, so why though? Like, I was like, is this thing dehydrated? Is that why it was like reacting to the juice and the rain? And, oh boy. There's only one episode you would get nightmare for, I think. And frankly, I don't think we would get to it. I don't think so too, because like every episode is about 20-ish minutes, and then we'd have to talk about it. It's how a vampire must act, sleeping in a coffin with soil from its own homeland. Oh, so fear of vampires. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yikes. Do they have to do that? Do they have to like sleep? Do they need the soil from their own homeland? Vampire. I know vampire, right? That's crazy. Okay, I like the way it's written. That was pretty good though. Vampire will fight to me. Exactly. It is scary. Oh, it's not vampires, like zombies? Zombies then. That's crazy, Deo. Where is the music? I forgot. Let's not do that. Does Filipino folklore have any especially creepy creatures? Do you want me to tell you about some Filipino folklore? Did I already say zombies? Being buried alive, death. Let's see. Hi, Sharky Gamma. Such a serious unk. Are you calling me an unk? That's crazy. Okay. Do you want me to tell you about some Filipino horror? I guess like one of the most famous we have is called the Manananggal, which supposedly a Manananggal is, so the word Manananggal comes from tanggal, like the root word tanggal, which means to take something out. So a Manananggal, I am assuming it's alluding to them removing your organs. So that's what they eat. They eat people's organs. Basically, here, let me look for a picture. So a manananggal is a lady. I wouldn't say just a lady, but like a human. They look like a human in the daytime, and then they fly off their second half. Like they get split in half like Gojo, and they fly with bat wings. So here, let me go grab a photo for you. It's pretty cool. Here's a manananggal for your evenings. Okay, here we go. What yes, it does. The remover. Yeah, that's a great way to translate it. The remover. So they fly around half a body with bat wings. And the only way to kill it during this time, so they do this at night. The only way to kill it is to find their lower half and sprinkle salt on it. Basically Gojo. Oh really? Where are you from? Please, Shardscape. I need Shardscapes. I need this. Where are you from? Are you from Southeast Asia too? Manananggal bodies. Respectfully. Yes, salt to purify them. So some say that the reason why Western vampires started having more bat connotations, like bat wings, started after they heard the stories of manananggals. So the stories of manananggals are more popular in the south, like let's say in like the southern islands or central islands like Leyte, Samar, Siquijor, places like those. Yeah, you're from Southeast Asia. I'm assuming either like since you said Penanggalan, I'm assuming you're from like Mafalindo, so like probably Malaysia or Indonesia. I'm from the Philippines and we call it manananggal here. Yeah, Siquijor is very popular for that. So this is monster number 1. Number 2 we can call a tikbalang. Tikbalang, which is a half man, half horse. I don't know the other characteristics they have. They run really fast. Is this a smasher pastime? What are you talking about? No. It's just a folklore, Philippine folklore. I wasn't expecting a mythology class. So he is a half man, half horse with a head of a horse and really like legs or feet of a horse too. So they run really fast. And I don't know what else. I don't know anything else about them. Except apparently they are scary. Do they eat you? Maybe. They have disproportionately long limbs also. I don't know if they eat. And the thing is, horses aren't even native to the Philippines. So I wonder where we got this from. No offense, but that's basically a horse furry. Tikbalangs are basically centaurs, but the other half. That is weird. I'm trying to think. Tikbalangs are from Spanish? I don't know. That doesn't make sense if they are. They show up as... They can misdirect people. Yeah, so if you start to get lost, let's say you're in the woods, right? You're in the woods, you're climbing up a mountain, you're in an area that's a little sussy. A natural area that's kind of sussy, and you're like, hey, I've passed that rock like 4 times already. It could be a manananggal, a tikbalang has seen you and is trying to play tricks on you. So how do you counteract being misdirected by a tikbalang? So you would have to take your clothes off and put them on inside out. So the next time you pass by, they don't recognize you. And they're... I thought that was a capre though. Could be. But that's interesting. It is apparently. So apparently it's also tikbalang. So I don't know how many superstitions or mythological creatures we have that do that, because that's also capre. Which leads us to the third monster I'm going to talk about. A capre, which is a big ogre. I think that the best way to describe a capre is an ogre that sits in a tree and smokes a cigar. And then, what do you call this? Huh. I didn't hear that. Did you hear that? I did not hear that. I saw it though. So, should I grab a picture of a capre? I don't know. So a capre smokes a cigar, and I know that if you see like light in the in a tree. Jesus Christ. That one was Tomoe, I think. I think that was Tomoe. I don't know. Thank you, Basti. Okay, thank you. A capre, I don't know if they try to eat people. Okay, so they're described as they're described as a 7 to 9 foot tall man who sits in a tree. They're hairy, they smoke cigars, they have a strong odor. And if you see a light up in the tree, turn around. Turn around. That is probably a capre. They also, if they get ashes on you, if you walk under a tree where they're sitting and then they get their ashes from their cigar on you, what do you call this? They can also make you lose your way. And again, the solution is turning your clothes inside out so that they don't recognize you. They seem to be, okay, so from reading, they seem to be non-malicious, so they're not going to try to eat you or anything. But where'd they get the cigar? They probably made it themselves. They will try to get you lost. That's about it. They're not going to try to eat you. Why the inside out clothes again? Because if you go back, they're not going to recognize you if you turn your clothes inside out. That's what they say. The boo still screaming. Do I have my friends? Well, only the ones who submitted, but not all of them. They're smart enough to make cigars, but not smart enough to recognize inside out clothes. I don't know, man. I don't know. They might have face blindness. They usually leave people alone. Yes, they do usually leave people alone. They're considered as guardians of the forest. Yeah, and some people will actually leave them food for good fortune. I wear my clothes inside out. When the ashes hit, their clothes have to be normal. Ha. Very smart. Also, is Tangling Sphinx still here? Can they make Google Maps lost? Good question. Probably not. Unless it's one of those Google Maps cars. Not car, person. Because sometimes when it's hard to get to, they will send up a hiker. These monsters are so racist, they can't tell Filipinos from each other. If their clothes are slightly different, that's funny. What else do we have? Oh, Tiyanak. We could go for Tiyanak. So a Tiyanak is a vampiric... Okay, so I'm just reading this off Google. Oh, that's the AI overview. Inside Out reference. I don't know. Tiyanak is a baby monster thing, a toddler. Okay, so it cries in the forest or cries somewhere, And then if you go to get that baby that's crying, it will revert back into its true form and like eat or attack the like whoever picked it up. So like if you see a baby or hear a baby crying in the forest, Chanak. Crazy. Some accounts say that if a woman died in childbirth, she and the child suffered punishment, and that at night she could be heard lamenting. Interesting. That is crazy. Okay. The baby, indeed. Could also be a person trying to kidnap people for their organs. So the one in the Philippines always wondered about that. Yeah. And there's also another one, like in other countries they have similar. I know like in Southeast Asia, other Southeast Asian countries, they have the Pontianak. Which is like the woman, I think, the mother looking for her child. There's also in other cultures the concept of a changeling. So if a kid gets lost in the forest and they come back changed, sometimes some would say, then maybe the fae replaced the kid in the forest, and that's a changeling. I wonder if that's what inspired the Lethal Company baby. Maybe. I haven't played Lethal Company yet, so I don't know. What else do we have? Chanaks are shape-shifting demons. They take the form of a baby to lull victims into a false sense of security and the need to protect the baby. Then they eat them when they're close enough. Exactly. That's what it is. What else do we have? Tiyanak, manananggal, tikbalang. Oh, we could go for I like the big crab one. I haven't done aswang yet. True. An aswang. Aswang is a shape-shifting monster with a long-ass tongue. It's a really long tongue. So they are... So a long time ago, you know, people's... Thank you so much for the hydrate redeem. Zombie hunter? Oh, it's goblins. That makes sense. Okay, so with aswang, they have like a long tongue that they use to sort of like suck things out. I don't know really how it works. They have bloodshot eyes, backwards facing feet. Yeah, so look at their feet. Look at their feet. So they are also one of those monsters that lives like, it's more popular or more infamous in the Central Islands, so like the south of Manila. And I don't know how to explain them aside from like they have a long tongue and they eat things like your liver. And if you're like pregnant, they'll eat the baby. What the tongue do? Remove viscera. That's what. Oh yes. And then there's also like regional lore. Like there's either a tick tick or a wak wak, which is like a tick tick makes a sound like you'll hear it in the night. Because we say here in the Philippines, you don't hear birds at night aside from owls that go like hoo hoo, right? But you know what an owl sounds like. But if you hear another bird, then that could be a bird that leads the aswang to the victim, usually a pregnant woman. Yes. Exactly. A chupacabra is a goat sucker. Aswangs are equivalently of a vampire, but more grotesque and beast-like. Yeah, I agree. Sakuras only mean if it's untrue. Wait, what? I had to take meds, so I might not see the end of it. That's okay. Thank you so much, Notsuro. I wanted to be like, do something chill. Still kind of keeping in theme today because we weren't able to do any of the collabs today. I also was not able to play any of the games that you suggested. Let's see what else. Tick tick, wak wak. In the Philippines, we like naming things like Pokemon. So it's called a tick tick because it makes that clicking sound, and a wak wak kind of similar. Well, damn, over here there's only one bird that's awake at like 10. But thankfully it's like that due to the new street lights. Fair. I'm trying to think what other... We have a lot. We have a lot of monsters. We also have the white lady. She's called a white lady because she wears white. It's not because she's white. She wears white. And it's mainly because our burial shrouds for a time were white. Okay, sane individual. Thank you so much for dropping by. Have you shared about Mount Cristobal? No, I haven't. But I have heard stories about Mount Cristobal. The opposite of Mount Banahaw. Yeah. So, what do we call this? So, do you want to hear a scary story? I'm trying to think of a scary story. I'm sure there are scary stories. Oh, another thing about aswang, I heard they can shapeshift into dogs or pigs. I don't know, like, if you've heard that, but apparently it's true. La Sayona. So what's her story? So the white lady is not just one person. So the white lady it can either be like a jilted bride, a woman who was brutally murdered, you know, things like that. A new mother who was killed or died. She usually dies either very sad or she died a brutal death. Nuno sa punso, yeah, a dwarf, and they like. If you disrespect the territory, like if you step on their mounds, dwarf, this is a nuno or nuno sa punso. If you disrespect their territory, they will cast a hex on you, and you could get really sick. And typically, the only way to resolve this is give an offering to the nuno or go to an albulario, which is like a witch doctor kind of. Yes, Blue Destiny. So aswangs can shapeshift into animals, but they're always going to be black. Yes. Yeah, and if you don't say tabi-tabi po, which is basically like saying, excuse me, passing through, they're gonna be like, oh, you're so disrespectful, here, a hex, get sick, you know? Did your parents or grandparents tell you about any of those creatures as a child? I don't think so. Maybe a little bit. Like when I would go to like, when we were in like a mountainous area with a lot of shrubbery, a lot of bushes, they'd tell us, hey, careful, there might be a nuno sa punso there. Cryptids from all over the world. Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it, Blue Destiny. Training out for the night. Thank you so much, Byakuya. I'm glad to have seen you again. Yeah. Or else... No, actually, you do. If you have... It's like a guy, you have to pee somewhere. You have to say, tabi-tabi po. Because if you pee on a tree and Nuno happens to live there, you know? La Llorona. Yeah, the weeping woman. Looking for her dead children. I heard that her children were like drowned or something by unfaithful men or something like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. Hello, a certain mysterious virtuoso. Welcome. We're just talking about scary things. What else do we have? Philippine lore. Philippine cryptids. A sigbin. A creature with long ears that hops like a kangaroo. I have not heard this in a long time. A sigbin. A sigbin is so it jumps around like a kangaroo, and it either brings luck or it will eat children's hearts. Shokoy, I have heard of Shokoy. Lime, they're like, they'll drown you. Like a siren, but ugly. Sorry about that, Shokoy. I don't mean to ugly shame you. Is there only one more horror-thon stream? That is correct, Toffee. Also, Serena. Serena is like a siren, basically. I'm not gonna lie, I once saw a lady dressed in white. She was really drunk and had her hair hang over her face. Is it to say I was scared shitless when I saw her? A scary story. I'm trying to think. So, one time, I don't know where this was. I think this was Makiling. It was either Makiling or Mount Cristobal, one of those two mountains, where this was a group of mountaineers. And I heard this from... So, I heard this from like an old dude who apparently had this, like, joined this organization or like a group of, you know, mountaineers, I think in college. And this came from one of his... So, this was like a second-hand account. Because this one came from his friends in the same group. He didn't go on the hike for this one, but he told me this group had climbed up the mountain and made camp, and you know, they drank a little bit. This was a group of, I think, about 5 to 6 people. One couple, there was like one couple among them, and the girls stayed in one area, the boys stayed in another. They went to bed to sleep, and then, what do you call this? The guy was in his sleeping bag. He had his eyes closed and everything, and then his girlfriend. Putang ina. Oh my god, that boy, my heart, look at my heart rate just jump. Oh my god. By the way, for anyone, oh my god, anyone who is new here, I am currently doing a horror-thon, and if you want to jump scare me like that, here is this special menu that triggers all of these sound effects. I did forget this was a horror-thon for a bit. It triggers these sound effects in my ear, in my headphones. Except for the harmonica. That one's me. But then because I was playing horror games, it's funny for like if I have like a harmonica in my mouth for 10 minutes. That's okay. Thank you so much for this the tip anyway. Hi Takasui. Whew. Okay, thank you so much. Like if you want to open the menu at any time, you just do like exclamation point menu. If you want to know what the tip is, like where to tip, because only tips made through Stream Elements will go towards the donation goals. Up there you can see the Dono bar above my head. And only tips made through Stream Elements will trigger those sounds. Oh boy, it's not bad that you forget it's a horror-thon. That way it's funnier for us. Okay, where were we? Okay, so he goes to sleep. Oh, he doesn't go to sleep. He goes to bed and he's like kind of like really tipsy. And his girlfriend comes over and sort of like stays on top of him. Like it feels like she's like kneeling over him because like, he's on the ground, right? So it feels like she's kneeling over him. And her hair is falling into his face. And so he like touches her hair, touches her face, like, you know, like it's like, oh, what's up, baby? You know, like that kind of like what's up? But she's not talking though. So she just like had his eyes closed because like he was so tipsy, or I don't know if he was already kind of drunk. But she pulls away. She doesn't say anything, and she pulls away. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Okay, fine. So he goes back. He finally goes to sleep. No. I remember. I'm so sorry. I misremembered. She doesn't pull away. He opens his eyes and he doesn't see a face. It's just the moonlight. Like once he opens his eyes, he only sees the moon, the full moon. I remember now. Oh no, actually she does pull away, and then when he opens his eyes, it's the full moon. And then he goes to sleep. He's like, oh, she probably went back to where he was, to where she was sleeping with other girls. Yeah, we're not doing Horrorthon Part 2, by the way. We're just doing Evil Unleashed, where it's going to be a full-on Evil Cela stream. It is going to have to be an 18+ story, though. Okay, anyway. So they're all outside. They're all camping. This is at the mountain. This is at a mountain. They're outdoors in sleeping bags under the starlight. And what do you call this? So he goes to sleep, and the next day they finally they reach the peak. They go down, or it wasn't the next. It might not have actually been the next day. It might have been like 2 days later, because it was like a multi-day hike. It was probably not Makiling then, because that would only be like a day. It might have been Cristobal, which is known for being kind of spooky ooky mountain. So they go down, and then another person walks up to him and he goes like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. So he's like, what do you need to talk to me about? So I saw something. Was there anything weird on the night we were drinking? Like, did anything happen to you? Did you feel anything? He was like, no, but my girlfriend did come up to me. And then like, I think she was being weird. She might have been angry or something, or maybe she just didn't want to get caught. But that's it. I promise we didn't do anything. And he's like, yeah, no, I know. See, the thing is, also, hi, Liam. So the thing is, we all went to bed after drinking. And then I was feeling uneasy. And I opened my eyes and I looked over to you. Like they were, let's say he was a couple of meters away from this person. I looked over at you, and there was a woman. There was a woman like looking at you, like crouched over you, and it wasn't anyone that we had, because no one was wearing a dress. But I didn't look anymore because I was scared. So I closed my eyes and I forced myself to go to bed because I was scared of making a sound. If I made a sound, she might come over and look at me. And then that's when like the original guy's blood ran cold. He was like, oh my freaking lord. So like he was making baby noises to whoever was on that mountain. Was she cute though? What are you talking about? She looked like the moon. The ghost just wanted a cuddle. The ghost just wanted some words of affirmation and to tell and to be told off that they can't do the hanky panky because the other people would hear them. That's what the ghost said or had. Also, in this case, they think it's not a ghost. They thought it might have been a diwata, or I think the closest word in English would be a fairy. I also have another story from that guy. Same guy, same group. Maybe not the same group, but it was there was a group of hikers around, I can't remember, 2 to 4 people hiking that got lost, and I don't know where. Okay, bye, Sora. And this was like in the 70s, okay? 70s, 80s, something like that. Like, it was a long time ago because the guy who was telling us the story was old. So he and his friends were contacted by another group or like the government, because there was a certain group of mountaineers that got lost on a mountain. There had been like not a storm. It wasn't a storm because the weather forecast wasn't anything crazy, but it had rained extremely heavily over the weekend, and this group of hikers had not come back. At that point, it had been a couple of days, and so their group was contacted to help with the search because they needed experienced hikers. Here's the thing, Sakura. I'm not blaming. I believe in fairies. I see a green one on my screen right now. Oh, that is good. Oh, no, Sarah. No, it probably is Mount Cristobal. Also, Sakura, I'm not blaming anyone for the first story. She was probably just curious. Like, who are these people? Is he cute? He might have been cute, you know? So like I said, it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't his fault or anything. Nothing nefarious happened. She was just like curious. Okay, and we do believe that fairies or fae live on the mountains, you know, to do things, to protect the mountains, to protect the animals, the forest. Anyway, so we're going back. Their group was commissioned, hired. Their group was hired among several other groups to go look for this group of mountaineers. Okay, so apparently they'd been looking for at least 2 days. Their group had already been looking for 2 days, but the search had been going on for a couple of days, and they felt like this group had already perished, had already gone. And at one point, while they were looking, one of their female companions could hear something. They could hear tulong, tulong, which means like help, help. They could hear like yells, and she said, "Hey, I heard something. I think it's them. I can hear them." And then like a bunch of other people started hearing it too. Not a lot, just like two more people. It was like they could hear people screaming for help, but it sounded so far away. So they were going around. They had to go around. Like it sounded like it was like on the other side of a really high cliff face. So they ran towards the sound. It was so difficult to get to that part. It took them about 20 minutes to finally get to the part. And as the closer they got, of course, the shouts got louder, and like they would answer back. Don't just keep yelling. Just keep yelling. We're gonna get to you. We're close. We're super close. We're gonna get you out of here. You know, but obviously they were saying this in Filipino. And then they would just continue just screaming, help, help, help. They turn to, what do you call this? They eventually turn the corner, and all the screaming suddenly stops. When they reach the cliff face, and about a couple of meters high, I'd say about like 10 meters high, they see the mountaineers like all in a line, dangling from like a line. It looks like they were trying to scale something. And apparently, according to the autopsy, they drowned. Wait, hold on. It had been raining. And so the area that they climbed up on, apparently, it sometimes becomes like a waterfall when a flash flood occurs higher in the mountain. So they had drowned while they were trying to climb, and they got stuck there. So if they were gone since like the day that it rained, who was yelling? Who was begging for help? And it wasn't only one person who heard the screams. And they only stopped when they saw the dead bodies. Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's a rule. There is a rule among mountaineers. If something creepy happens, do not ever talk about it while you're still on the mountain. Get down. That's where you talk about it. Don't talk about it while you're there. So they all just like, once they found the bodies, they all just looked at each other. Like, you know, like all in disbelief, but you can't talk about it until you get down. And they didn't hear only one person yelling, by the way. They heard like all of them screaming for help. Don't talk about it because whatever caused it or any other like mysterious forces will follow, like will take an interest to you. They're like, oh, you're talking about it. I'm getting attention. And it could attract unwanted attention. So don't talk about it. Don't acknowledge it. It's like in the Appalachian Mountains. If you're out and about on the Appalachian Trail and you hear something, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Also, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. What did you think of the story though? Exactly, Zenny. Exactly. It is a horrible way to die. Whew. Creepy, right? Exactly. Ghost spirits and supernatural beings love getting attention. What? If you're on the Appalachian Trail, it's calling for help. Fucking run. That's a cougar. Wait. Any countermeasures like salt or charms, you might piss them off. And they don't like that. They won't like that one bit. Just don't. Just be smart. Respectful of nature. And don't poke your nose into things you shouldn't be poking it into. Crazy though. I'm trying to think. Trying to think of other things. I could tell you about my own scary story. Do you wanna hear? Oh my god, Toffee, that is genuinely terrifying. Cougars have developed vocal cords capable of making noises similar to human English word for help, and it's loud. That is insane. If you hear it, you're actively being hunted by one. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a scary story. I went to school in an old school. Okay, it was around during World War II. This is important in the Philippines, in the Filipino context, because that means people died where you were standing, most likely. Okay? So like, not fun fact, but fact. If you've ever heard that Warsaw in Poland, Warszawa, Poland, was the most devastated city during World War II. The second is Manila. Okay? Manila was the second most devastated city during World War II. Manila was flattened. Lots of, like 100,000 Filipinos dead. That's why we don't have a lot of like really old architecture standing today, because it was flattened. Anyway, lots of dead people, dying violent deaths. What does that do? it gives you a lot of scary stories because you have a lot of people with unresolved issues meeting untimely demises. Anyway, mountain lion and cougar, but similar difference. Huh? Are they different? I thought they were the same thing. Anyway, going back. So I went to a school at this. It's a really old building, really old school, really old building. And I happened to go to like this class. It was a lab. It was a biology lab. Happened to be in one of the older buildings too. It was a really creepy building. I remember being at the back of the classroom, like last row in the lab, and we were learning how to use microscopes. And I recall, like you have to have both eyes open when you're using a microscope, right? Unless it's like a monocular one. But even then, I think you still have to use both eyes so that you can focus properly. Anyway, where are we? I was using the microscope, and then out of the corner of my eye, I see someone wearing white on my other side. So I had my lab partner on my right. Then I see someone wearing white on my left, like looking over my shoulder. Like that's what I feel. Okay, and then I remove my eyes from the microscope and I start writing. And then I look, and I was like, I was assuming that was our lab teacher, because our lab teacher was wearing white that day. So I look up and I look to the front and I see my lab teacher at the front doing something else. And like literally not even 10 seconds ago, there was someone behind me. And I look around and I'm like, who? And what did I say? If you experience something spooky-ooky, don't talk about it where you are. So I tell my lab partner, hey, I have to tell you something later. Shadow of the professor. So when we leave, I tell him, hey, so did our teacher ever come around to us earlier today? Like after she gave us our microscopes? And he was like, no, there's no one there. Like, no, she was like at the front the entire time because we already know like stuff, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hey, so while we were there, I saw something out the corner of my eye. Like the hat man. Anyway, he told me like I didn't see anything, but then like he was focused on like writing stuff. So I don't know. That's like this. Is that the spookiest thing I've seen or experienced myself? No, but I will keep the rest to myself. Yeah. Teacher has ultra instinct. Imagine if it was actually my teacher, right? Like she just like ran to the front immediately after I I stood up. Can you imagine that though? Huh. When I said I don't like cemeteries and funerary homes, pretty much went through why I don't like those places. On the flip side, my grandma has a very cute story. I can't remember when it was. I think it was my grandfather's death anniversary or something. No. This was it wasn't just my grandfather's death. It was November 1. So Day of the Dead for us. Day of the Dead. We went to the cemetery. I remember we went there, and then I remember we left, but my grandma stayed behind for a little bit, and she started talking to my grandpa there. I don't know what she said. And we get home, and we light some candles at home at the family altar with like pictures of like our loved ones who have passed on. And I remember coming back. Well, my grandma comes back and then she starts crying to me. And she said, look, Cela, oh. It's your grandpa. Earlier today, I told him, Darl, why did you leave me so early? It was so hard. Life was so hard. You left me with 3 boys. You left me so early. And she said, but you know, I'll never stop. I'll never regret choosing you. I'll never regret loving you. I will love you till the day I die. She said that. And I'm like, I don't understand why you're crying. Then why are you crying? And she said, because today I felt in my heart a little bit angry at your lolo. And look, and then she pulls me to the altar. And her favorite color is yellow. And that's a very important fact. You gotta hear. So we had like a stack of candles. And like, you know, like, have you seen those candles where you just like burn different colored like you'd burn different candles on top of each other instead of like removing the old one, you just like put the next one on top. Does that make sense? And then, what do you call this? So the candle she had placed for him that day was white. But it melted down enough that it actually hit one of the yellow candles from a previous lighting. And that wax overflowed. It overflowed onto the table right in front of my grandpa's picture. And it formed a perfect yellow heart. I don't know. Kind of romantic, if you ask me. My grandpa still got the moves. The Van Riesler gene is generational. I'm telling you. He got the moves even from the afterlife. Exactly, Zenny. First of all, if you want attention, why would you target the person that's actually spreading word about you? They think, I guess, that life is mundane without attention. Yeah, Grandpa Riz from the grave. So I think it was kind of cute. So not all ghost and spooky stories are bad. In this case, my grandpa was rizzing my grandma up from the grave, from beyond the grave. I shall have to third hand learn his ways. Yes, Grandpa Van Rizian. And the thing is, I don't know how it got into that heart shape either. It was weird, right? Because like most of the time they'll fall and form into a blob, but in this case it formed a perfect yellow heart. So yellow, like my grandma's favorite color, and a heart in front of my grandpa's like photo. So cute. Very, very cute. Okay. Shall we do one more episode, or shall we call it that? I am enjoying the Magnus Archives. This might not be the last time I do the Magnus Archives. I might actually do this for Halloween. Oh no. Okay, I'll do one more episode and that's it. I'll rest my voice, and then I'll also rest because the horror-thon has been fun, but also the most physically taxing of anything I've done streaming-wise, apart from debut. Yes, yes. Let's do episode 3 then. Whoops. crazy, Zenny. Oh boy. Continue. I want to read what you're about to say.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
Actually, hold on. Let's wait for... Because there's one more. Gonna have my phone on the side. You dropped it on your face. Oh, Lesser, I'm so sorry. Okay, I am going to... Wait, can we wait like 3 more minutes just so that the Twitch people don't get hit with an ad right as we start? Okay, hold on. Oh! I see. It's the most popular one. Okay. Let's just wait until the Twitch folks get their ad. I think... Oh, there we go. I think they got their ad. They got their ad. So let's wait. It is... We are reacting to a podcast. A creepy podcast. It's a narrative podcast that's kind of got creepy undertones. And also, if you haven't yet, please like the stream. Please, teehee. And, if this is your first time encountering me in the wild, aka on stream, and you are enjoying my company, why don't you give me a follow or a sub? Lest you lose me to the void. Yes, Sakura, please, why not? Put the link for EP3. Will do. Okay. Because the other side has also rejoined us, if I'm not mistaken. Okie dokie, artichoke. Eto.
Episode 3. Across the Street.
Okay.
Statement of Amy Patel regarding the alleged disappearance of her acquaintance Graham Folger. Original statement given July 1st, 2007. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. I first met Graham 2 years ago, more or less. It's hard to say exactly when we first met or even started talking, as we were taking a class together at the time. I'm sure there was plenty of discussion or interaction before we learned each other's names, but I started my course in September of 2005, so yeah, about 2 years. I decided to take a criminology course at Birkbeck University as a way of getting out of the rut with my office job. I'm an associate compliance analyst at Deloitte, and if you think that
Deloitte
sounds boring,
mention.
well, yeah, it is. I knew a night course in criminology wasn't going to go anywhere, of course, even if I'd finished it. I just had to do something to find a bit of interest in my life.
Conceptual
It was either that
horror.
or become
Interesting.
an alcoholic, so... Sorry, I'm going off topic. I initially found Graham a bit off-putting, to be honest. He was a chain smoker and wore far too much deodorant to try and cover the smell. He was a bit older than me, maybe 10 years or so. I never asked his age. I mean, we weren't that close, but he was starting to grey at the edges of his hair, and you could see that the tiredness on his face wasn't just from missing a single night's sleep. That's not to say he was bad-looking. He had a round, open sort of face and quite deep blue eyes, but very much not my type. He was well-spoken in group work, at least when he did speak, and I think it came up once that he'd been to Oxford, though I don't know what college. I'd noticed earlier that during lectures, he always seemed to be scribbling furiously in a notebook, even when the lecturer wasn't speaking. At first, I just thought he was thorough, but I swear I watched him fill a whole A5 notebook in one lecture. I remember it was a talk on youth and the justice system where the speaker was so slow that it wouldn't have filled that book even if Graham had been writing down literally every word. Not to mention, I asked to borrow his notes once for an essay, and he gave me this weird look and said he didn't take any notes.
Huh?
So yeah, point is, I wouldn't have called him a friend, but we got on all right.
Weird.
It was about 4 months into my course that I first encountered Graham outside of the university. I was riding the night bus home, having gone for a couple of drinks and missed the regular service.
Okay.
I live in Clapham, so there's a pretty regular night bus service headed there. Of course, regular also means drunk and angry vomiters, so yeah, I generally try to be unobtrusive, sitting in a seat at the back at the top floor. It was there that I saw Graham. He was sat right at the front, staring out of the window. People watching is one of my guilty pleasures, so I decided not to say hello, at least not right away. I wasn't disappointed either. He was stranger alone than he had ever been during class. It was the middle of winter at this point, so the windows were solid with condensation, but he almost obsessively wiped it away from the one in front of him the moment it started to obscure his view. He seemed to be intently scanning the street for something, except that at times he would crane his neck to stare at the roofs of the buildings passing by. He seemed nervous as well, and was breathing way faster than normal, which fogged up his window even more. It was slightly alarming to watch, to be honest, and I finally made up my mind to tell him I was there. He jumped a bit when I greeted him, and I asked him if he was all right. He told me he didn't usually stay out so late, and found nighttime public transport unsettling.
Okay.
I sat next to him, and he seemed to get much more relaxed, so I didn't push the issue. We talked for a while about nothing in particular until the bus started to approach my stop. As I rose, I noticed that Graham had stood up at the exact same time as I had, and I realized with some discomfort that we must live at the same stop. I liked the guy fine, don't get me wrong, but I still didn't really feel okay with him knowing where I lived. But yeah, it was obvious that I'd gotten up to get off the bus, so I couldn't really ride on to the next stop. And it wasn't even that I felt unsafe with Graham, I'm just a private person.
Fair.
I decided to just walk back with him as far as necessary and make sure he didn't see what building I went into.
Fair.
Maybe we
Smart.
weren't even walking in the same direction. Yeah, we were walking in exactly the same direction. We even seemed to be heading to the same street.
Uh-oh.
It was at that point I felt a hand grab my shoulder and throw me into the road.
Ah!
I don't know how else to describe it. One moment I was walking along, the next I was flying towards the ground. It can't have been Graham. He was in front of me at the time, and I would have sworn there was nobody else on the street. There weren't any cars coming, but I hit my head hard. I think I must have been unconscious for a few seconds, because the next thing I remember is a panicky Graham on the phone to an ambulance. I tried to tell him I was all right, but didn't really manage to get the words out, which, yeah, probably meant I wasn't all right. The ambulance arrived in pretty good time, considering it was London on a Friday night, and the paramedics gave me a look over. I was told that the injury itself wasn't serious. Apparently head wounds always bleed that much, and it's nothing to panic about. But that I did have quite a nasty concussion and shouldn't be left alone for the next few hours. Even though we were within sight of my door, I had for some reason settled upon the idea of Graham never knowing where I lived. In retrospect, this was likely the concussion talking, but the upshot was I agreed to go back to Graham's flat to recover. He was quite awkward about the whole thing and took great pains to assure me that there was nothing untoward about the situation. Apparently he was gay, which I'll admit did actually reassure me a bit.
Fair.
Still, it was clear this wasn't how either of us had hoped to be ending our nights.
This is Amy.
As it
Amy
turned out,
Patel.
Graham's flat was directly across the street from mine, just a couple of floors lower. I wondered if I could see my window from his, and I remember I had the odd thought that if I had to look out, I'd need to be careful of his window box, as I could see the hooks attaching it to the frame. I asked him what he grew, and he gave me a look as though my concussion had stopped me making sense again. I mean, maybe it had, because when I looked back at the window, the hooks were gone. There was no sign of any window box. At the time, I put it down to my head wound, and even now I'm not sure. The flat itself was a simple affair, quite big by London standards. It had only a few pieces of furniture and a lot of bookshelves, each covered with rows and rows of identical notebooks, with no apparent marking system or indication of contents. I started to ask about them, but my head throbbed and I didn't feel up to any answer that might have been forthcoming. Graham led me to the sofa and disappeared to fetch me an ice pack and a mug of sugary tea. I graciously accepted both, though I wasn't in much of a mood to talk. Graham clearly felt awkward enough with the silence to do the talking for both of us, and I learned more about him over the next hour than I'd ever had a desire to know. Apparently his parents had died in a car accident a few years previously and had left a great deal of money and ownership of this flat. He didn't need to work anymore,
Yeah,
and so
Graham
had found himself somewhat
seems
adrift,
pretty nice.
taking night college courses to pass the time and broaden his mind. His words, not mine. He said he was trying to figure out what to actually do with his life. He talked on like this for a while, but I stopped listening about that point as I'd become enraptured by the table on which he'd placed my tea. It was an ornate wooden thing, with a snaking pattern of lines weaving their way around towards the center. The pattern was hypnotic and shifted as I watched it like an optical illusion. I found my eyes following the lines towards the middle of the table, where there was nothing but a small square hole. Graham noticed me staring and told me that interesting antique furniture was one of his few true passions.
Okay.
Apparently he'd found the table in a second-hand shop during his student days and fallen in love with it. It had been in pretty bad shape, but he'd spent a long time and a lot of money restoring it, though he'd never been able to figure out what was supposed to go in the center. He assumed it was a separate piece and couldn't track it down. And yeah, like most of his conversation, I'd have found it dull even if I wasn't concussed, but by this time I was beginning to feel well enough to leave and started to make my excuses to Graham. He expressed his concern, said it hadn't been long enough as the medics suggested, but if I had to, well, you get the picture. In the end I did leave as I kept getting lost in the lines of the table, and the pipes outside of the window made such a weird noise that I didn't think staying was actually going to help me recover. I went straight home, making sure Graham
Give a
couldn't see me
nice
from his window,
feeling.
and spent a few hours watching TV until I recovered enough to go to sleep.
Antique
By the time I
furniture,
woke up the
probably
next morning, I was
haunted.
feeling more or less okay, though I kept a plaster on the cut on my forehead and tried not to think too much about the previous night.
I wonder what it is.
One evening, a few days later, though, I found myself staring out of my window, the one that faced the street, and I remembered how close Graham lived. I looked to see if I could figure out which window was his, and yeah, sure enough, there it was. It was actually a remarkably clear view of his flat, and I could see him sat on the sofa, reading one of the notebooks from his bookshelves. I realized that if I could see him so clearly, he could likely see me just as well if he chose to look up, and with some remnant of my apprehension from that Friday, I decided to turn off the light in my flat, so he wouldn't see me if he looked up. And then I went back to watching him. Yeah, I know that sounds creepy.
Yeah.
It really wasn't meant to be. I said earlier that I really enjoy people watching, and regardless of how boring he may have been to speak to, Graham was weirdly compelling to watch. So that's just what I did. And not just that night either. Yeah, there's no non-sinister way to say that watching Graham became my hobby. It was strange, I'll admit it, but I just couldn't stop myself. I reasoned it wasn't watching him with any purpose or malice in mind. It was purely out of a detached interest in his life. And in my defense, I would have stopped a lot sooner if it hadn't been for the bizarre things he would do. He would constantly reorder his journals without any apparent system of organization, most of the time without even opening them. Sometimes he would grab an apparently random notebook from the shelves and start scribbling in it, even though I could see that the page was already covered in writing. Once, and I swear this is true, I saw him take one of his notebooks and start to tear out the pages one at a time. And then, slowly and deliberately, he ate them.
Huh?
It must have taken him 3 hours to get through the whole book, but he didn't stop or pause. He just
Thank you.
kept
Good
going.
night, Rainy Faye.
Even when he wasn't doing anything with the notebooks, there was an odd energy to him. From what I could see, he was constantly on edge and jumped every time any loud noise passed on the street below. A police siren, a breaking bottle. Hell, I even saw him freak out over an ice cream truck once. Each time he'd leap to his feet, run to the window and start looking out, wildly craning his neck from side to side.
Weird.
Sometimes he'd look up, but I'd learned his patterns well enough to avoid being spotted. Then, all at once, he'd decide that there was no problem and go back to whatever he was doing before. And by whatever he was doing before, yeah, I mean nothing. He apparently didn't have a television or a computer.
No
The only
TV.
books he seemed to own were his own notebooks, and I only ever saw him eat takeaway food. I don't know how many times I watched him eat the same pizza, pepperoni with jalapeno peppers and anchovies. Yeah, I know. But the rest of the time he just sat there smoking.
I mean, he was right.
Sometimes looking into
Someone
space,
was
sometimes
staring at him.
staring at that wooden table of his. And yeah, I remembered the pattern was kind of hypnotic, and I spent more than a couple of minutes staring at it myself when I was there, but he did almost nothing else. Who knows? Perhaps he had a rich and fulfilling life outside of the flat. He certainly left it regularly enough, and yeah, I wasn't so far gone as to actually follow him. In fact, I always waited a good long while before leaving my own building to make sure I didn't bump into him. I still didn't want him to know where I lived, although now for very different reasons. In the end, though, it was a hobby, not an obsession, and often days would pass when I wouldn't see Graham at all. Maybe there was stuff I missed that would have explained his behavior. I just wish I'd missed what happened on April 7th. Then maybe I'd have just thought he'd moved on, or I don't know. I just wish I hadn't seen it. Work had been intense for a couple of months, with so many late nights I'd had to drop out of my course. It was just as well, really, as I hadn't actually spoken to Graham since the night I suffered my head injury. I think he still felt awkward about it, and I'd seen him do so many weird things alone in his flat that I think I'd have struggled to have a normal conversation with him. Anyway, this week, I'd barely had time to eat, let alone do much in the way of Graham watching, so when I got home at about 10:30 at night, my first thought was just to fall into bed. But it was Friday, and I'd drunk a huge amount of coffee to keep going at work, so yeah, I was wired, and looking forward to a long,
I don't know, average Joe. Sounds like he's got a lot of fiber.
When light was still on, I decided to spend a relaxing few minutes checking in on him. His light may have been on, but I couldn't see him. And I wondered if perhaps he'd gone to bed and simply forgotten to turn it off.
Thank you so much for the new follow,
More
Agashi
likely
Trash.
he was just in the bathroom, so I decided to wait a while longer.
We are
As I
currently
stared at
reacting
that
to
window,
a podcast.
I realized there was something, I don't know, off about it. It looked different somehow, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Then I noticed it. At first, I'd just taken it to be a water pipe running down the side of the building, attached just below Graham's open window. The light from the street lamps didn't reach up to his fourth-floor flat, and the window ledge cast a shadow that stopped the light from the room illuminating it. But it was long, straight, dark, and from what I could see, it just looked like a pipe. Except I've been watching that window for months now, and would have sworn that there had never been a pipe there before. And as I stared at it, it moved. It started to bend slowly. And I realized I was looking at an arm. A long, thin arm. As it bent the joint close to where the arm ended, I think I saw another joint further down, also moving and bending what I could only assume were elbows.
Elbows.
It hooked the end of the limb over through the window.
Eh?
When I say moved, that's not quite right. It shifted.
Shifted.
Like when you stare at one of those old magic eye paintings and you change from seeing one picture into seeing another. I never saw anything I could actually call a hand, but still it pulled itself through his window. It took less than a second, and I didn't get a good look at what it was. I just saw these arms, legs, at least 4 of them, but there might have been more. And they kind of folded themselves through the window in a flash of mottled grey. I think that was the colour. It was mostly a silhouette. And if there was a body or head, it shifted inside faster than I could see it. The moment it was inside, the light in Graham's flat went out.
Huh?
And the window slammed down behind it. So, yeah, I just kind of stood there for a long time trying to process what I'd just seen. I could make out some vague movements from inside Graham's flat, but couldn't see anything clearly. I finally decided I had to phone the police, though I didn't have any idea what to tell them. In the end, I simply said I'd seen someone suspicious climbing in through a 4th-floor window at his address and hung up before they could ask me who was calling. Then I waited and watched the darkened flat opposite. I couldn't look away. I was convinced that if I stopped staring, that whatever the hell it was would fold itself back out, reach over and step into my home. Nothing came out. About 10 minutes later, I saw a police car driving up the street. No sirens, no flashing lights, but they were here, and right away I started to feel better. Looking up, though, I saw the light had come on in Graham's flat. There was no sign of the thing I'd seen climb in, but as the police pressed the buzzer outside his building, I saw someone walking towards the door to let them in. It wasn't Graham. I can't stress enough how much this was not Graham. He looked completely different. He was maybe a few inches shorter, and had a long, square face topped with curly blonde hair, where Graham's had been dark and cut short. He was dressed in Graham's clothes, though. I recognized the shirt from my months of watching, but he was not Graham.
Huh?
I watched as not Graham walked to the door and let the two police officers in. They talked for a while, and not Graham looked concerned, and together they started to search the flat.
Not Graham.
I watched, waiting for the thing
Graham,
to
what
emerge,
happened?
or for them to find the real Graham, but they didn't. At one point, I saw one of the police pick up a dark red shape that I recognized as a passport. My heart beat faster as I saw her open it and look at Not Graham, clearly comparing, waiting for the moment when she detected the imposter. But instead she just laughed, shook Not Graham's hand, and they left. I watched the police car drive away, feeling a sense of helplessness. And when I looked up, he was standing at Graham's window, looking back at me.
Oh my
I stood there
God.
frozen as his wide, staring eyes met mine, and a cold, toothy smile spread across his face. Then in one swift motion he drew the curtains and was gone. I didn't sleep that night, and I never saw Graham again. I saw this new person, though, all the time. For the next week, I'd see him taking out large, heavy-looking rubbish bags several times a day. It took me a while to realize he was disposing of Graham's old notebooks. But soon enough, the flat was empty of them. I think he did other redecorating, but I never got a good look, as the only time he had his curtains open was when he was staring intently at my flat, which he now did every night. I tried to find evidence of the old Graham, but anything I could find online with a picture, it was always a picture of this new person. I even asked some of my old classmates, but none of them seemed to remember him at all.
That's so strange.
Eventually I moved. I really liked my old place in Clapham, but yeah, it just got too much. The last straw was when I was leaving for work one morning, and didn't realize until too late that Not Graham had left his building at the same time.
Uh-oh.
He greeted me by name. His voice was nothing like it should have been. I started to make my excuses and hurry away, but he just stared at me and smiled. Isn't it funny, Amy, how you can live so near and never notice? I'll need to return the visit someday.
Visit?
I moved out a week later, and I never saw him again. Statement ends.
Damn.
I'd be tempted to dismiss this as hallucination resulting from long-term head trauma complications, but Tim came through with this one and managed to get hold of Ms. Patel's medical records. God knows how he got them, but he better not be using institute funds to woo filing clerks again. The records just don't support the idea she was suffering those sort of problems. Not to mention I usually trust co-worker testimony as far as I can burn it, but her job really doesn't seem like the sort you could do with a compromised sense of reality.
Yeah.
Ms. Patel has refused our request for a follow-up interview and seems to be trying to distance herself from these events. Graham Folger definitely existed and appears to match up with her story. According to coroner's records, Desmond and Samantha Folger, his parents, died on the M1 near Sheffield on August 4th, 2001, and Graham Folger's name appears on the register of several colleges and universities in and around London over the next few years. The flat she mentioned did belong to Mr. Folger, but was sold through an agency in early 2007. All the photographs we've been able to source seem to match the description of this not Graham that Ms. Patel described, except for a few Polaroids enclosed, which appear to be from the late 80s and show the two parents along a dark-haired teenager who doesn't match the later photos at all. There doesn't seem to be much more to be done here. Miss Patel, like so many of our subjects, seems to have been more interested in giving her statement as a form of personal closure, rather than as the start of a serious investigation. She wasn't even interested when Sasha told her we'd managed to locate what we believed to be one of Graham Folger's journals. Doubt it would have done much good. It just says the same thing on every page. The words, "keep watching," over and over again. Recording ends.
Ayo?
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by RustyQuill.com
That is
and licensed under a Creative
crazy.
non-commercial
So,
share-alike international license.
what is this
Today's
fear?
episode was written and
Stalking?
performed by Jonathan Sims. It was produced
Identity
and directed
theft?
by Alexander J. Newell.
Do much in the way of Graham watching, so when I got home at about 10:30 at night, my first thought was just to fall into bed. But it was Friday, and I'd drunk a huge amount of coffee to keep going at work, so yeah, I was wired. And
That was crazy. I mean, yeah, we stalked him. But like, he started stalking back. Not Graham. I would call him not Graham. Fake Graham. I'd call him fake guy. Exactly, Noodles Doodles. That was kind of crazy, okay? Crazy, dayo. That's like, what was that? Oh my gosh. What is not Graham to Amy? The Watched. How do we know you're the real Cela? I mean, you gotta trust me. You gotta trust me. I know my voice sounds a little different today, but it's still me. What? Stalker. No, stalked. What is... Socially, what was not Graham, and to a degree Graham, to Amy? The guy across the street. Your neighbor. Fear your neighbors? Having a square face. The antique with the square hole. Yeah, that makes sense. The guy, like... Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Sakura. See, Sakura knows. I mean, I did notice your voice being different. It's the fear of strangers. Fair enough. That does work. I agree, Average Joe. Graham might be a little weird, but he was nice. He didn't deserve getting whacked. He didn't deserve all that. That was interesting. That's for sure. Oh my. Now you need to ask him how paper tastes like. Why not just ask Achi? She knows what paper tastes like. She used to have Pika. And she actually ate a card on the behest of one of her chatters who paid her $100 to eat a card. It's kind of funny. I miss Achi. But she's been so busy lately with her new job. This is not the only time people eat books inside of this series, by the way. Well, Sakura made a very good point earlier. You eat paper, eat the spell to break the spell. But he kept saying, keep watching. Maybe perhaps he thought he was being watched. And so he ate paper. Because that's the thing. In the Philippines during martial law era, if you had any messages, if you received any messages, dangerous messages, you had to eat it immediately. This is the only way you'd be able to hide that quickly enough. It might not burn. You can't throw it out in the trash. It could be traced to you. Thank you. That's crazy. Is paper actually tasty? I don't know. You hope everything is going well for her. I hope so, and I think so. I think it is. She hasn't expressed anything terrible to us lately, so I'm assuming she's just like really busy. I know, well, the most terrible thing is the fact that her schedule keeps changing. So she can't promise whenever she'd be able to collab. And that is terrible for us. But I hope she's doing okay. She, you know. You didn't know what a fortune cookie, how a fortune cookie works. I've always wanted to try a fortune cookie. Put some chili oil and MSG. Everything will be tasty. Yep. Yes, Achi. I used to eat paper. Maybe not used to, but I eat paper by accident a lot. Like, you know how like your burger comes in a paper? I sometimes accidentally eat it, like a little bite. Also, there's another, like a treat from the Philippines, like several treats from the Philippines wrapped in paper. But there's this one that was like banana slices, like sticky banana slices that are crispy. I don't know what they're called, but I had it once and I accidentally ate the paper too. And siopao. Yeah, bao buns. Siopao. Hi, After Image. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about eating paper. And also, hi, Dr. Sticky. Turon. I've never had turon wrapped in paper, so no. White rabbit candy has edible paper. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love that edible rice paper. It's so good. Hi. We're actually about to end because your prez is a little tired. The horrorthon has been taking a lot out of me. You also do that with bao buns. You always eat the dang paper. Same. We had chocolate cigarettes with this really cheap chocolate wrapped in paper. And you just ate it with the paper. No! Yes, thank you. Tomorrow will be the last day of the horrorthon. It'll be a collab game stream. Hopefully collab people will be there. I might play the chat voted game soon, but I will also have to make a profile picture thread because you guys can pick the tweet and pick the thread. A thread? Profile picture and the tweet. There we go. My cat has eaten my homework. Not my homework, but my assignment. Okay. And tomorrow, we also have a wonderful announcement. Yes. Are you ready? Cela is Filipino, huh? Wait, what did I say? Oh yeah, it was probably all the, like, the turon. So tomorrow, the announcement is going to be at 10 a.m. We'll start hopefully at 7 and we end at around 10 because that's when the announcement will be. Are you ready? Yes, no, okay, perfect. But for now, let's look for someone to raid. What popped up on stream? Is there a plan when the stream will start? Hopefully at 7. Because I want to have maybe Mimi on. Hopefully. I'm not sure if she'll be on, but you know, we'll see. She might be able to come on tomorrow. Oh wow, it's crazy. Trying to look for people to oh, I don't know who that is. To raid, but I don't know who these people are. Oh, Ryan's on. She's on, so maybe I can raid her. Oh, she's playing Silent Hill. That's cool. Thank you. Hi, Anime Weeb. I'm going to probably rest, watch an episode of Love Through a Prism, and maybe continue Gachi Akuta. And what else? What else can I do? I don't know. But we're gonna do all that. So today, good job, guys. We are currently sitting pretty at $1,818 over $2,000 to reach Evil Unleashed, or AKA the full 100% red Cela stream. Well, I'm not gonna call it 100% because I might have to like pop in every now and again to pull her back, to reel her back. Thank you so much, Reiki, for the hydrate reminder. Oh, hi, Henpai. I didn't notice you were here. Hi. Thank you for the stream. It was incredibly lovely today. Well, I did give one of your suggestions a listen. Thank you so much for the wonderful suggestion of the Magnus Archives. Otherwise, I would have actually probably strained my voice more by reading No Sleep. Let's save that for another time, shall we? I might continue reacting to the Magnus Archives for Horrorthon Part 2, but the Horrorthon Part 2 won't be video games anymore. It'll just be me reacting to some creepypasta and the Magnus Archives because I like written horror. Oh, you were lurking and working. Ooh, that's nice. I hope you save, everyone. Save reminder before I go. Glad I managed to catch most of the stream. I'm also glad to have had you here. It's been a little sad that you haven't been able to join us for more than VODs, but it's okay. You know what? Like, your support in any form, I appreciate that, and I'm just happy that you're able to interact today. Oh, hi, Carl. Sup, oomph? What's up? You actually caught us right at the end. We're just wrapping up. We have less than $200 left to go for Evil Unleashed, aka Red Cela, full stream of Red Cela. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Whoops. And you know what time it is? You know what it is? You know what to do. I know what to do. Oh, I haven't picked who I'm reading on YouTube yet. Let's pick someone else. Let's see who's online. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go with Rara. Okie dokie, you know what time it is? You know what time it is? It is time for the spoopy bell. Say goodbye because we only have to hear this like what? 2 more times aside from this? Session adjourned. I hope you enjoyed our time together today because I certainly did. And remember to be the light in someone's day. Because you never know what dark corridor life has prepared for other people. And you are all the light in mine. Take care, and I'll see you all tomorrow. 7 a.m. Philippine time. I actually don't know what time that is in PST anymore. It might actually be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you can convert from that. Bye-bye and see y'all next time. Mwah!